Tuesday. Welcome, everybody, to the Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Glad to have you with us. If you can't catch the whole show live, you can find us online and wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us at ESPN700sports.com. Hopefully, you've already downloaded the ESPN 700 app. And you can find us there as well in more of an on-demand format. So you don't have to listen for a full 3 hours, although we certainly appreciate it when you do. James Peterson back behind the glass, living that dual life. He's a working dad now. He's got a kid. He's got a job. He's got responsibilities. And we got a fun show lined up for you. Gordy Chiesa is going to stop by as he does every Tuesday. A lot to talk about with last night's NBA Finals. And, of course, we haven't got his thoughts on the Desmond Bane trade and everything else going on in the offseason. Trey Fitzgerald, RSL Senior Director of Communications, friend of the program, is going to join us as well. And then Tom Callahan to talk some hockey ahead of a potential series-deciding Game 6 as Edmonton takes on Florida once again. James Peterson, how you feeling?
Yeah, radio director, producer by day, dad by night. Is that a little? I mean, am I a comic book superhero now with the dual roles? Is that what being a father is?
You could write a comic book about that. I don't know how much it would sell. I don't know how popular it would be.
You don't think people would read it?
Maybe.
You don't know about that? Okay.
Maybe. Like, there's a niche for everything. We've found that out because of Reddit and
radio dad.
Yeah. You know, there's something that appeals to everyone. There's a butt for every seat is something my wife likes to say.
That's a good O'Connellism there.
Yeah.
That's very good.
Anyway,
Mrs. O'Connellism. Yeah, maybe if I get a really good artist, I could sucker some people into reading Radio Dad. Maybe.
I wish you good luck in that effort. All right.
I need to come up with some kind of mask I wear at night too. Yeah, there you go.
Don't do that. don't make it even weirder than it already is. All right. Look, we got a lot to talk about on the show today. Oklahoma City mollywopped the Pacers, who did battle back to within 2 in the fourth quarter.
Thanks to Siakam, mostly.
Pascal,
my gosh, he was awesome.
Pascal Siakam was even, like, he was blocking shots and creating loose balls that then nobody for Indiana, picked up. He was
all over the place. TJ McConnell deserves a mention, too.
Yeah,
that third quarter was incredible by him.
Look, Tyrese Halliburton, this has been the most hot and cold thing in the NBA postseason. Tyrese Halliburton in some games has looked like that dude. He has looked like a world beater. He has looked like, that's the guy who's ready to be a superstar, who is a superstar now. And then he's had games where he had, pedestrian performances. And then last night, I know he got hurt.
Yeah, he's playing hurt. I think we have to give him just a little bit of an excuse playing with the sore hamstring in the second half. But you still got to score, man.
4 points?
You got to score.
4 points?
If you're your team's best player, you got to score.
I think if we put James Peterson out on the floor in that game last night, he might have scored 4 points.
I probably would have gotten 6, 2 threes, baby.
In any case, that is really unfortunate for Indiana. We'll dive into that deeper with Gordy. There's a really good piece in The Athletic. I tweeted it out and put a poll up with it. I want to give you a little homework assignment if you're at work today and you're looking to waste your employer's time and maybe have some recreation on the clock. Really interesting piece in The Athletic about the rise of the GM role and really the categories that most people at most schools seem to fall in. There's the celebrity GM, which we've seen, the best examples of this are Andrew Luck and Ron Rivera in the Bay Area. And Andrew Luck is he's taking the job very seriously. He's obviously the most famous football alum probably from Stanford, or one of the most famous football alum from Stanford. And he's done an incredible job so far and actually taking the bull by the horns, dodgeball style. And he's just really doing it. He's really doing the job. It's he's in the office every day kind of position. there's also the vast majority of those celebrity hires are dudes who are just lending their name to the program.
So many more of them, it seems like, in college basketball, men's college basketball in particular, than there are in college football so far.
There's, but like, people are just, I mean, Max Crosby just did this.
That's true. That's another one, yeah.
I mean, there's several examples of guys that are not actually doing day-to-day work for their alma maters. It's mostly their alma maters that are being named GMs or assistant GMs or whatever. And so, look, it's great, whatever. So there's that category. There's the NFL hires, meaning these programs brought people over, similar to what BYU basketball did. Grab them out of the pro ranks, grab a GM who was working in the NFL, grab a GM who's an assistant in the NFL or something like that. The NFL hires, because now we're talking about professional sports, right? Especially the big-time programs. It's professional sports now. Then there's the traditional college football risers. This is an interesting category. This, I think, is where Bobby Blecken falls into at the University of Utah. Someone who's like, on the staff, an assistant, a quality control analyst or whatever, who now has stepped over into a GM position and started to fill that role. And then I think the other half of how Utah does it is kind of a more ethereal concept that's described in this article, where it's an unofficial title. There's no GM title placed on this individual, but they have GM duties. And I know that's at least partially the case at the University of Utah as well, where folks who might have a different title next to their name are doing the GM stuff. And that includes, by the way, your head coach. So it's worth a read. It's a very easy, digestible read. It'll take you 5 minutes, and then vote on what you think is the best case for Utah football. If you're a BYU fan, what's the best case for BYU? If you're a Utah State fan, same thing. Pardon me. So, yeah, take a look at that. And then last night I was getting ready for the show, James, watching basketball, got the laptop on my lap, and I'm, looking up the articles and planning the show. And I was like, oh, okay, you know what? I realized if I do what I promised I was going to do, and I'm doing start, bench, cut, multiple eras, meaning post Pac-12, Power 5 era, and pre, we actually have a lot of start, bench, cut questions that we got to do. Potentially 20 plus.
Yeah.
Right? And actually, if at most positions you're separating out eras, it's up to 40-ish. Because you got starters on both sides in both eras. You're not going to do – I don't know if we're going to get to, like, every single offensive line position. Like,
yeah, you might just do group.
Your pre-Pac-12 favorite center, start, bench, cut. You know what I mean? We might not get there. But
right guard versus left guard. I mean, they're different positions.
They are. But guards are probably going to go all into one sort of a thing, right? But in any case, we got a lot that we need to get to. So Monday and Friday – there's not enough weeks between now and college football season.
Let me just tell you this. 74 days till kickoff. 40-something of these questions. There's a way to do it, OC.
So we're going to get them all in. And because I'm not going to be on air every single day, I'm like, okay, I'll go offensive tackles. Pre-Pac-12 era offensive tackles. All right? And Utah had some of the best in school history that were pre-Pac-12, okay? You could probably make an argument that the best tackle in the history of the Utah football program is a guy who played before Power 5 football. So, at Real OC Sports, 877-353-0700, we're going to play some start, bench, cut. Again, Jordan Gross, Zane Beadles, Anthony Brown. Anthony Brown is an early 90s guy. A lot of people don't remember him the same way they do those other two, but he was also an All-American tackle. He was a 3-time All-Conference performer for the University of Utah. He was a Ron McBride staple, established that physicality along the lines of scrimmage, which, of course, is kind of the thing that started the turnaround of the Titanic, that the physical identity of Utah football in the Ron McBride era help lay the foundation for what eventually this program became. And there are some of you super old schools, by the way, when we're playing start, bench, cut, who might get mad that I'm not diving as deep into like the 60s and 70s of Utah football. But like I know that most of my audience has very little awareness of watching some of these guys. In any case, even if we're going back to the early 90s, Jordan Gross, Zane Beadles, Anthony Brown, pre-Power 5 Utah football offensive tackles, start one, bench one, cut one, go.
Starting Gross, benching Beadles, cutting Brown.
Which, by the way, is every answer so far that I've received.
And listen, let's be fair. It's probably mostly because that's the first I've heard of Anthony Brown. You telling me his resume there. I know the other guys.
I will say this. Even if your bias is not based on recency, and even if your bias is not based on an over-indexing of like sports talk radio era kind of, because sports talk radio wasn't huge in the 1993 season.
Yeah, it was a couple years after that it really started. So yeah, absolutely.
I begrudge nobody the lack of awareness of Anthony Brown. However, even if you were like, I watched every down that he played, I think Jordan Gross is better. Objectively, Jordan Gross is and was a better player. He gave up no sacks his final 2 seasons at the University of Utah.
That is an insane stat.
He was an All-American. He was a freak of nature. He was a first-round draft pick, all these things for a reason. And Zane Beadles, also an All-American tackle, and a guy who played guard very successfully for the University of Utah. Well, I shouldn't say very successfully. Came in, they thought he was going to be a guard. He ended up being a tackle, and then he played guard at the NFL level at a high level for many years, won a Super Bowl, et cetera, right? Zane Beadles was part of a team that was like, I mean, maybe the best team in Utah football history, and was one of the best players on that team. So, again, all respect to Mr. Brown, I think that's the only way you can do it. And there hasn't been variance, but here we go. Gross, Beadles, Brown, start, bench, cut. We're going to do it a lot. I also put another one out we'll get to a little bit later in the show today.
And if any of you are of the cranky variety of texter that wants to tell us about 60s or 70s great tackles in Utah football history, feel free. We'll mention them. They're just not part of start bench.
You know what? I'm going to do it right now because there's not enough disagreement on the tackle one.
Yeah.
All right?
So
and I understand why.
Not cracking.
Some of these are a little bit easier, right? Now I'm going to give you one that's difficult.
Okay.
Now I'm going to give you one that people are going to have a really hard time with. Again, 877-353-0700. This one is really, really tough. Start, bench, cut, Utah football return specialist from the Pac-12 era. One of these guys straddles the Mountain West era and the Pac-12 era, but he's going to go in the Pac-12 era anyway.
He's in both. He's part of the Pac-12 era, yeah.
Like Tony Bergstrom was also in that category, and I was like, God, where do I put him?
Yeah.
Because he was a guy who came in during the Mountain West era, finished during the Pac-12 era. In any case, I digress. This one's hard.
Yeah.
Start, bench, cut, Utah football return specialist from the Pac-12 era. Reggie Dunn, Kalen Clay, Britton Covey. All-American return specialists from the Pac-12 era.
Do you have touchdown return yardage stats on hand for them? I know all of them scored tons of touchdowns.
I only know that Reggie is officially the touchdown, the return yardage leader in the Utah football record book.
Okay. Oh, that's tough.
Yeah, see?
That is tough.
877-353-0700. Have fun with this one. Return specialists in the Pac-12 era. Reggie Dunn, Kalen Clay, Britton Covey. Start one, bench one, cut one. You're going to cut one of those guys?
Seriously.
You're going to tell Britton Covey I'm benching you? All right. Good luck.
Good luck. Well, if it's kickoff, maybe you have two of them start because you have a couple of guys
Don't
deep.
find a loophole. Don't you try to find a loophole, James.
Okay. I am starting Britton Covey, benching Reggie Dunn, cutting Kalen Clay. And that's so hard to do. Oh, see that? Especially, I do feel like it's Covey and Dunn ahead of Clay, all due respect. But picking which one of those guys you're starting, my goodness. I'm starting Covey, though.
At Real OC Sports is how you tweet at me, 877-353-0700. And there were several people who said, I'm not doing it.
I'm not doing it.
They're all goats. I can't
Impossible.
cut them. I won't. I refuse. I won't do it.
Pre-Pac-12 era, like, that's Steve Smith in there, right?
We might get to that.
Okay. I'm
right
interested
now,
to hear.
You have to
those
make
other
a
ones.
Reggie Dunn, Kalen Clay, Britton Covey decision at 877-353-0700. And then the offensive line one, there's just no variance on it. But it was Jordan Gross, Zane Beatles, Anthony Brown. Start, bench, cut. Have a little bit of fun with it. Debate it. You can weigh in at any point during the show today at Real OC Sports, 877-353-0700.
And go ahead and call us if you're any of these people we're talking about and you're mad about being cut. 877-353-0700. Love to talk to you about it.
Kalen Clay, people are gonna cut Kalen Clay because of the drop touchdown thing.
Yeah, that's true.
They're gonna cut him. There
That's
are
true.
people
Covey and Dunn never did that.
There are people who are going to be big mad about that. Kalen Clay, that's that thing that haunts you, follows you around. But then you still have to decide whether to start or cut Britton Covey.
Yeah.
Anyway. Start or bench, I should say. Britton Covey. Okay, so let me ask you this, James. We touched on this yesterday when we were talking Stanley Cup hockey, and we've seen it now in this NBA final series as well. The games are close. The series, the wins, right? It's close, right? Both of these teams, both of these series, I should say, teams are battling back and forth. Florida's wins have been more dominant than Edmonton's wins have been. Oklahoma City's wins have been more dominant than Indiana's wins have been. Is that the story told right there? Am I reading too much into it that, like, hey, good for you that you fight and claw and scrap your way to a couple of victories here, but this other team, you sometimes have to do your best and they have to do their worst in order for you to get an overtime win. And this other team, all they got to do is show up and play the way that we're capable of playing, and they beat you by 10. They beat you by 9. They beat you by 4 goals in hockey.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand we like the underdog. We like to make it a series. We want both of these teams, both of these underdog teams to, like, play kind of above their capability. Let's see if you've got something you can match up with SGA. Let's see if Pascal Siakam can actually make something special happen and overcome the lack of depth, the relative lack of depth that you have compared to what they have, whatever. But do we just have to look at it and say, you know what? These teams that are dominant in their victories are truly the better teams.
I think that that's a fair way of looking at it, OC. As long as that team is ahead in the series at this point, which they are, but you can't say that about, okay, they're down 3-2, but they had more impressive win. Their 2 wins are more impressive than the other team's 3 wins. Like, well, you're still down in the series. In this case, I think you can say that. That being said, Edmonton and Indiana could win another close game via Game 7, and then they could win it. They could make Game 7 close and win. So it really doesn't matter all that much.
I mean, there's
when we start the next game.
There's no such thing as style points in true elimination games.
Yeah.
In a best of 7 series, it doesn't matter how you win.
It's just winning.
I used to get mad about this during my fight career, right? Because I won a lot more than I lost, James. And even when I won, I looked like I lost, right? My fighting style was such that I was going to get hit fighting, right? I would wade into the mess. I would create the mess, and that meant sometimes I was going to get hit. I was going to get hurt, but I would win.
People who covered you probably said you won ugly. Is that
all the
fair
time.
to say?
I won ugly all the. I don't think I ever won pretty once, James. And it was funny because people they enjoy that, right? They enjoy watching that, but they also enjoy telling you how ugly that was.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh my gosh, dude, you were getting your ass kicked, and you're just like, actually, no. I knocked the guy out.
Yeah. Scoreboard.
And I would get to a point where I'm over it now. Maybe, but I would get to a point where I'd just be like, I don't want to talk to you about this. I just got back from a weekend of fighting. I got a black eye. I knocked the dude unconscious, okay? I won. I got a bonus for it, whatever. And people are just like, oh, man, I can't believe that. He here hurt you so bad. I'm like, okay, but who won?
Yeah.
Who won? So there's that
should
element
just tell
too.
them you were doing the rope-a-dope. I was making them think they could beat me. And
there's
then
that element to it, too. Like, Indiana, Tyrese Halliburton could be listening to the show right now and be like, dude, we're in this series. We could still win this series. It doesn't matter if they win by 10 and we win by 1. It matters that we are equal teams.
I think if you're trying to predict who's going to win this series, who's going to win the next game, I think it's fair to say the team that has had more impressive wins and happens to be up or tied in the series. In this case, they're both up. I think it's definitely fair to say, I think that team is going to win because they have won close games in this series. They have won blowouts in this series. The other team has only won close games. And in the case of hockey, we saw Florida win one overtime game, a close game, and then one actual no doubt blowout, another one that was secured with minutes left on the clock,
but
right?
convincing
convincing victories. You can't. Oklahoma City hasn't won a close game in the finals, but they've showed they're capable of doing it.
Look, I see it both ways. Leon Draisaitl call in and just be like, it doesn't matter that it took my overtime goals to get victories. We are within striking distance of a cup, the first Canadian Cup in however long.
The second overtime win, their second win of the series, talking about the Oilers, they were down 3-0, so it was a dominant ending to that game.
It was a dominant third period and overtime.
Yeah, they go
even if the goal in overtime was kind of sloppy.
Yeah, they go 4-1 after the first period. I would say, if I'm Leon Draisaitl, if I'm a member of the Edmonton Oilers, I'm saying, hey, even though the final score was close, we dominated them for most of that game. That would be the way I'd spin it. But yeah, I think as you're predicting it, I think it's fair to say I have gotten to the point where I'm like, it looks like it's the Panthers winning the Stanley Cup again, and it looks like it's the Thunder winning the NBA Finals. Both series could go 7. I believe those two teams are going to win Game 7 if they go 7.
Yeah, I don't know that we'll even get tonight.
Both series could go just 6. Just tonight and Thursday.
Florida could close it out. They don't want to go back to Edmonton. We all the cliches apply here. That's a very valid thing, and they are the squad that has been more physically dominant in the series. They have better depth. I mean, a lot of the things you can say about Oklahoma City, you can say about Florida, and probably because of my own predilections as an athlete, I love teams that win ugly. I love teams. I love the cardiac kid type teams. All of them. In every sport. The ones that are just like, how did you find a way? Wasn't it? It was Washington a couple years ago that made it to the national championship game. They won 8 one-score games.
Yeah.
And people used that against them, said, oh, they're not a good team because, look, they're just barely getting by the skin of their teeth. And I was standing on the mountaintop crowing at the top of my lungs. They're winning the games.
Well, it takes,
and it's more entertaining, by the way.
Yes, it takes skill to win clutch games. It does. It takes skill to do that. It takes skill to score as many points. They weren't just winning one-score games; they were scoring a bunch. You're talking about that Washington team, and we're seeing that. We're seeing that with Indiana and Edmonton in these championship series as well in NHL and NBA. It's and I'm with was it Brian Hayward yesterday on the Sean O'Connell show? Check that out and wherever you get your podcasts from Sports USA. Was it he that said that Florida's just showing their depth is what matters most in this series. They have so many, like we talk so much about McDavid and Draisaitl. Florida has like 6 of those guys. Not any of them that are as good as those two individually, but who are good at what those guys are good at.
And by the way, I think that in even sports where it's a small team, where, it's hockey, it's basketball, I think, yes, you want to have your cake and eat it too. You want superstars, but Oklahoma City is not going to win the NBA Finals on SGA alone. Far from it.
I mean, Jalen Williams was the 40-point scorer last night.
He had 40 points last night. He was unstoppable. And, by the way, those two on the floor together were the catalyst that stopped the bleeding, stopped the comeback for Indiana. It was those two playing off of one another, right? So, we've seen it in NBA basketball. You've seen it in NHL hockey. You see it in the NFL. It's obviously a lot easier for a great player to get lost in the shuffle in the NFL because it's such a team sport. It is the ultimate team sport. But to the point you're making and the point that Mr. Hayward made, Florida's got 6, 7 dudes that would be the second best player on almost any team.
Well, and Brogan Houston was on yesterday too. You talked with Sam Bennett with him and why. He's their second. He's a second line player, and he's looked at as a top free agent target for the Utah Mammoth and other people. It's like that's their second line guy.
He's probably going to win Stanley Cup Final MVP.
Yeah.
All right, that's the Conn Smythe.
There's all due respect to Edmonton and guys like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who's also really good. They don't have a second line guy as good as Sam Bennett.
And it's weird because, well, I don't know how weird it is, honestly. It's like if you're on the playground picking teams, right? We all know who the number 1 pick is going to be. That's Connor McDavid. That's SGA. All right? The difference is it's like Edmonton got to have the 2 top picks.
Yeah.
And then it was a snake draft where Florida just got everyone after that. It's like, okay, you guys get the top 2. We're going to take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and now you get to pick again.
When this was the story in last year's NBA Finals 2 OC, Celtics-Mavs. The Mavs had an argument for the best 2 players in the series, as did the Celtics, but you could say that Luka and Kyrie were the best 2 players in that series. I personally would say Luka and Tatum, but whatever. You could say that they had the best 2 players, but then the Celtics had the next 2 through 7 best players.
Yes.
And that depth matters, especially in a parity, in leagues that have lots of parity, like we're seeing the NBA has turned into in the last 6-7 years, and the NHL has always had a ton of parity. The deeper team tends to win in those situations.
1624 on the text line. Honestly, I have a feeling that McDavid is going to have a Thanos moment the next 2 games.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Honestly, it would be incredible to see. And also, it is necessary for them to win the cup. He's been great. I mean, he's been not quite MVP, best in the world Connor McDavid, only because he hasn't scored enough goals for us to say that, right? Now, sometimes, and we do this to LeBron James too often, or we did this to LeBron James too often, oftentimes the right play is to not try to do it yourself. Oftentimes the right play and what makes you the best player in the world is facilitating for the other guy. That first overtime win where it was him and Corey Perry that combined for the assist to Draisaitl that got them the overtime victory, a perfect example of that. I mean, you can go down the YouTube rabbit hole of just the stick handling, the puck handling of Connor McDavid in this series, and he's been beautiful. But if Edmonton does not win, and you go back and you look at the combined box scores of these 6 or 7 games that this series ends up going, and you see 1 goal and 8 assists, 1 goal and 9 assists or whatever for Connor McDavid, and you're an Edmonton Oiler fan, and you're a Canadian fan who's been hoping for one of your franchises up there to bring the Stanley Cup home to the homeland of hockey, you're going to look at that and you're going to say, man, we needed more from you. And I know that's unrealistic in a lot of ways, or it's not unrealistic. It's unreasonable in a lot of ways to say, Connor McDavid, do more than you're already doing. But he's going to need to have that Thanos moment if they're going to win the next two against this Florida squad.
Yeah, continue to be the facilitator you're being if you're Connor McDavid, but you need to actually put the puck in the back of the net a lot more, too.
For sure. All right. Weigh in on the start bench cut. It is pre-Pac-12 offensive tackles and post-Power 5, so Pac-12 and Big 12 era return specialists. Start bench cut, Reggie Dunn, Kalen Clay, Britton Covey. Start bench cut, Jordan Gross, Zane Beanols, Anthony Brown. Take a quick one here. Gordy Chiesa joins us on the other side to talk a little hoop on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
.105.97 OKC, 6:20 left. Nimhard at the top, drives the free throw line, pass to the corner, turnover. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the run out, layup is good. 2 more points and 1 for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander off the turnover, Thunder by 10.
SGA with the and one. Game 5 win for the Thunder in the NBA Finals. That's courtesy of ESPN Radio. Mark Kestisher on the call. OKC now up 3-2. Game 6 is Thursday night in Indy. We'll have it right here on your home of the NBA Finals, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Coverage is brought to you by Budweiser. Gordy Chiesa, our resident NBA expert, joins us on Tuesdays and Thursdays here during basketball season. We've got him right now. Gordy, how are you?
I'm doing fine, OC. Thank you.
What was your main observation or takeaway from last night's OKC win?
Turnovers. The Pacers have 21 errors. The Thunder have 11, and that led to 32 OKC points, and that was a huge part of the game. Part B of that was the steals. Thunder get 15 steals, Pacers get 9, and then the block shots. Thunder get 12, Pacers get 4. So all the hustle points that are energy, that are effort orientated, the Thunder did. And that's a huge part of the game because the game was close. It wasn't that the Pacers really weren't competitive. It was a 2-point game, 94-93, and that's when they took over. They had that great 18-6 run to end the game, and that was the difference. So the turnovers, that was a huge part of the game. And we mentioned you had the promo about Shai Alexander. He was tremendous besides Jalen Williams. Williams gets 40. Shai gets 31, so the two stars get 71 points combined, and that knocked out the Pacers last night.
Was Tyrese Halliburton's disappearance more because of his pain, because he's playing hurt, or was that just a bad game for him, however you slice it?
No, I think it was a hurt injury, yes. Sore right calf. He 4 points, 0 for 6, 0 for 4 from threes. And so that was a huge factor. That was he only took 6 drives in the whole game, and that was the fewest drives of any game this whether regular season or postseason. So he was ineffective. He tried to gut it out, which was commendable, but he had no pop in his legs. Besides, Lou Dort played excellent defense on him. I'm looking forward to see him bounce back on Thursday night, whether 100% or not, he's going to try to play. It was disappointing for him, I'm sure, but it's also the defense of Lou Dort.
Gordy, tell me how the thought process works when a team is rallying, and oftentimes you'll see a timeout taken. When any team goes on a big run, somebody calls a timeout. Now, there was a situation in the fourth quarter where Indiana was battling back. They get to within 2. Certainly a situation where you might have called for a timeout. OKC elects to just let it play, and immediately, well, not immediately, but there's a rash of turnovers forced by great defensive plays, a couple of, bad miscues on the passes from Indiana, and suddenly it goes from a 2-point lead to a 10-point lead for Oklahoma City, and then it's Carlisle who has to take the timeout. So what is that thought process like? Is there communication on the bench? Hey, maybe we should take one right here from assistants or players to coach. When Indiana was battling back and got within that 2 points, why didn't OKC take the timeout? Ultimately, proves to be the right decision, I suppose.
Yes, it was, because at that moment they were trying to save timeouts later on for the rest of the game, and that Mark Dagnall believes in his team, and he was correct, where suddenly their defense took over, and the versatility of all their players, and they're able to steal the ball. That's when Ruben Nemhard, who's really a terrific player, that's when he panic passed. There was 3 straight turnovers, and then Halburton had a turnover. So there was 3 out of 4 possessions of 2 different players that turned the ball over, and that gave the Thunder the open courtness of running down the floor and scoring in transition. And that was a huge part. And I'll also add to that, Jalen Williams at that moment was also driving the ball to the basket. So their defense turned to offense, and that led to them knocking out the Pacers. So the process was that the head coach believed in his defense, and it was a correct decision.
How do you address a calf strain with, 2 games left to play in the series and everything on the line? Bob Myers on the halftime show last night was talking about how careful you have to be with situations like this, because a small problem can become a big problem. But, you don't have time to be careful. You got to let Tyrese Halliburton play, or do you? Because he was ineffective.
He's got to play. He's your all-star. He has to play. But also, you could play him with also T.J. McConnell, who was the energy giver last night. He sparked them. So if it's an elimination game at home, you're going to play Halliburton. He's going to give it his all. And that McConnell should be in the game also. So they might go dramatically small to try to counterpunch the brilliance of the perimeter players of the Thunder, and also with Alex Caruso, and also with Cason Wallace. Those guys off the bench are such huge factors as far as the Thunder. So you play both guys. And I think that they're going to try to do that during the game on Thursday night, because it's do or die, elimination game. It's going to be a great battle. It's hard to eliminate a team that's with a lot of heart, and that's the Pacers right now. The Thunder, though, do have heart themselves and also a whole bunch of talent.
We were just talking about this in the opening segment of the show, and it applies in this NBA Finals series, in the Stanley Cup Finals series, in hockey as well. We've seen this. How should we evaluate when one of these teams, even if a series is tied up 2-2, or now they're both sitting at 3-2, but one team is getting dominant wins and the other team is getting narrow margin overtime wins? How should we evaluate that? If the Edmonton Oilers, they got a couple wins on overtime goals, and the Florida Panthers have been more dominant in their victories, and the same is true with OKC. When they're winning a little bit more comfortably. Indiana is kind of more by the skin of their teeth. Does that mean anything in the big picture?
Yes, it does. Is that the Thunder have dramatically more talent and more depth, and that's why when they do win, that it's a larger margin. With the Pacers, it's much smaller, and that when they are successful, it's by a smaller margin, which means that when they actually play the game, that they've got to protect the ball more, and it starts with the respect as far as the possession. So Thunder more talent. The Pacers are basically overachieving. Just think about the Pacers, what they did: beat the Bucks 4-2, beat the Cavs 4-2, beat the Knickerbockers 4-2 to get to the championship. Thunder beat the Grizzlies 4-0, beat the Nuggets in a tough series 4-3, punched the T-Wolves in the pace 4-1, and now it's 3-2. So there's more talent level 1 through 10 on the Thunder than with the Pacers.
Can the Pacers win this series if for the next two games Pascal Siakam has to be their number one guy?
Yes, it can, but they need dramatically contributions from Miles Turner. He's got to really outplay the front line of the Thunder, and they need Halliburton somewhat functional, and all the rest of the guys have to overachieve. They can do it. Yes, it's possible. In fact, I expect the Pacers to win Game 6 on Thursday night, and then Game 7 on Sunday should be outrageous.
Gordy Chase is my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 792.1 FM. Shifting from the NBA Finals series and having a discussion about all the stuff going on off the court. Everyone else is in their off season right now. Trades happening, teams kind of gearing up and getting their rosters ready to see what needs to be done in this upcoming NBA draft. Of course, the Jazz are in that position right now. And we saw a blockbuster trade between Orlando and Memphis. The haul of picks associated with getting Desmond Bane to Orlando blew my mind, Gordy. Let's start with how you evaluate Desmond Bane as a player. Give me the Gordy Chiesa scouting report on Bane.
Two-way winning player, absolutely. And this is a classic example of a team, Orlando, where they think that he could help them get deep in the playoffs like the Pacers did this year. So Desmond Bane, for the listeners, is that he's a 41% three-point career shooter. Last year, he averaged for the Grizzlies 19.2 points per game, 48.4 field goal percentage, 39.2 from threes, and play serious defense. Now, the contract is the one where It's 4 years left in his contract. He makes next year 36.7, 26-27 season, 39.4, 27-28, 42.2, and 28-29, 44.8 million. And so he's in his prime of his career, and they felt that he's the guy that could help them. So now with the Magic, they start Jalen Suggs, who's a tremendous two-way player. Now Desmond Bain, Franz Vogler, who we all love, Paolo Banchero, who's an all-star, and then with Wendell Carter. So they think that starting unit could be very effective in the East. Now, from the Memphis Grizzlies' point of view, is that they didn't want to pay Desmond Bain. And so they added Kentavious Caldwell-Pope to the group, and they added with a contract also. It's a player. It's a 2-year contract, so it's a finish line. And Cole Anthony next year on a 1-year contract, and then it's a team option on the second year. But plus that, they got 4 first-round picks. So they moved on Desmond Bain. They get 2 players that are serviceable, and more in their world, they get 4 first-round picks. So they're picking right now number 16 this year. The Magic, it's the Orlando pick right now goes to the Memphis Grizzlies at number 16, and then they have the pick at 2026 via Phoenix Suns. They have the Orlando pick in 2028 and the Orlando pick in 2030. So it's all part of it as far as what they're trying to attempt to do. Both teams, it makes sense.
Okay, for other teams in the NBA, how do you react to this? You look and say, I mean, the surface level appearance for the novice like me, Gordy, is, wow, a borderline all-star level player, you can get 4 unprotected first-round draft picks for that guy? What does that mean if you've got a Lauri Markkanen on your roster and you're making the price for him's got to be better?
Better or very similar. Yeah, it all depends. So, again, it has to be the dynamics of a team, what they need. And so also, besides that, was that the Memphis Grizzlies, they're not really starting over, but they know that they have to re-sign John Morant for the extension. He's eligible. And so they want to clear money so they can re-sign Morant, if not this summer, the summer of 2026. If John Morant makes the All-Star team next season, he's eligible for an extension of $323 million in the summer of 2026. If he decides to sign a contract this summer, he can get $125 million for 2 years. So that's all part of the strategy. So from the Jazz point of view, is that Lauri Markkanen, this is what they could get in that range if it's the right team they try to deal with, or the right team as far as could be multiple teams. So this is the NBA landscape.
So can you compare trades like this, apples to apples? I mean, is this what other teams are looking for, a market to be reset, or because of the dynamic you just talked about? No, it's all about what a team needs. Orlando was willing to give this up because of the situation that they are in. They think they can win now in the East. Minnesota gave up a lot for Rudy Gobert because they thought that was the right thing to do. The situation they were in, he was the missing piece. And look, the results have been there for Minnesota. I think that's one of the rare trades where we get to say both teams kind of won the trade, at least with a stockpile of assets. You got to turn those assets into real players. So maybe the Jazz will come out even better, but we'll see. Does it reset the market now on guys at that level, or is this in a vacuum? No, nobody else is going to be willing to pay what Orlando was willing to pay.
It's a vacuum. Yeah, it's a vacuum. Absolutely. And so that's why it's very hard to make such powerful trades. But this one makes sense for both teams, very similar to the Rudy Gobert trade. Remember, the T-Wolves now, in their world, they went back-to-back conference finals, even though they lost. But conference finals, they went 2 straight years with part of that Gobert trade. So it was successful. So with Larry Marketing, we shall see what the Jazz do. And we'll know now with Austin Ainge running the Jazz now. We'll see how it all plays out. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the draft for the Jazz, but I'm also excited to see what they do with Larry Marketing, or do they stay and keep building through the draft. Should be an exciting time for Jazz basketball.
All right, Gordy, what's your list today?
Okay, my list today is the last 10 years, the NBA Finals Most Valuable Player Award winner. It's an amazing thing to be MVP of the Finals. 2015, Andre Iguodala from the Warriors. And interesting about Iguodala, he's the only player in the history of basketball to be named the MVP of the Finals, not as a starter. So think about Iguodala. He was off the bench all those games. He became an MVP. 2016 from the Cavaliers, LeBron James. 2017 from the Warriors, Kevin Durant. 2018 from the Warriors, Kevin Durant. 2019 from the Raptors, Kawhi Leonard. 2020 from the Lakers, and that was the bubble year, LeBron James. 2021, the Bucks, Giannis. 2022 from the Warriors, Stephen Curry. 2023 from the Nuggets, Nikola Jokic. 2024, meaning last year, from the Celtics, Jaylen Brown. 2025, unknown yet. I'm leaning towards Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Quickly, other quick notes about the MVP. The first one, and he's the only player ever to do it, was 1969. Jerry West. That was the first year of the NBA acknowledging the MVP. He's the only person ever to be MVP from a losing team in the NBA Finals. Michael Jordan is the leader of the most ever Finals MVP with 6. And LeBron James did it 4 times, once with the Lakers, 2 with the Heat, and once with the Cavaliers. So it's a huge thing being the MVP of the NBA Finals. That says that I'm the best player in the world with my team winning.
Wow.
Yeah, think about it. It's amazing. So Michael did it 6 times, LeBron 4, Jerry West did it from a losing team, and Andre Iguodala was MVP of not even being a starter in the games. Pretty powerful.
SGA's the Finals MVP right now, right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yes. He's a tremendous all-around player, and he would be one of the few people ever to be MVP regular season and MVP in the NBA Finals. It's hard to do. That just shows how great he is as far as versatility in the all-around game.
You know what's crazy, Gordy, is I thought that Eastern Conference Finals, you could have made an easy case that series MVP belonged to Tyrese Halliburton, and of course Pascal Siakam's the one who won it. If Indiana's going to win this NBA championship, I think now it's going to be because of Pascal Siakam, so he would have to be the Finals MVP potentially if they're going to win it as well.
Correct. Absolutely, yeah. If they win it, the Pacers win these 2 miraculous games coming up, that Pascal Siakam would be the MVP for the NBA Finals.
Wild. Gordy, I always love talking to you. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Sean. Peace out. Stay well.
Gordy Chiesa, our resident NBA guru, will join us again on Thursday in studio. Always great picking his brain. All right. Hot Lunch is coming up next. History in college baseball. And there's the debate on start, bench, cut is really heating up online. So I'm going to give you some numbers to put it into context. Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Trey Fitzgerald from RSL is going to join us in about 5 minutes on the Sean O'Connell Show. That's how we'll begin hour number 2. James, we were doing the show yesterday, and Arkansas was playing baseball in the College Baseball World Series. And I was paying marginal attention to it at best. I did notice that the Arkansas pitcher, a young man named Gage Wood, had a little child's face on a man's body. A little baby face Gage Wood, okay? He ended up throwing a no-hitter in what obviously ended up as an Arkansas victory.
19 strikeouts, too?
19 strikeouts.
He was obviously lights out.
119 pitches. The only base runner he allowed was on a hit pitch. He beat somebody in the 8th inning. You know when the last time in college baseball a no-hitter was thrown in the College World Series is, James? You know it off the top of your head?
No.
Of course you don't.
No. I'm not up on my College World Series history, unfortunately.
1960.
1960, okay.
Was the last time. Only 3 have ever been thrown. And 1960 was the last one.
Any of those perfect games, I wonder? I can look it up.
Unbelievable performance. Shout out to Murray State. The Murray State Racers had a really cool hat for their College Baseball World Series appearance.
They did.
A great hat with the horseshoe. And, anyway.
And never been a perfect game at the Men's College World Series. All right.
Just incredible performance.
He was like this close to a perfect game. Some controversy on that. I'm sure that's what you're getting to.
I wasn't going to get to that. I was just shouting out Gage Wood's baby face.
Well, so the controversy and Dan Patrick's show was good on this. They were pretty snarky about it today. They had a poll question. If you were in an elimination game, College World Series, would you want to help the opposing pitcher get a no-hitter, or would you like to take a hit by pitch?
I would rather take the hit by pitch.
Yes, absolutely. So they obviously very snarky wording on the poll question. There's a lot of people, he violated unwritten rule. He leaned into it to try to get on base. It's like, yes, his job as a hitter is to get on base.
Yes.
So, and there are rules, at least in the major league level. If you lean too far over the plate, it doesn't count as a hit by pitch. It counts as a strike. So there's written rules that are supposed to discourage those things, and I assume so at the college level too. So let's just let the written rules and the umpires interpret them well. The umpire interpreted that as a legal hit by pitch, and so he got on base, and he gave his team a chance to get back in that game when they were being no-hit. There should be no problem with that.
In no world do you want to be part of history on the wrong side of the record.
Yeah, you're not
that's just not a thing. You're not like, yeah, hey, you know that game? The only perfect game thrown in College World Series history? Yeah. I was the one who decided to dive out of the way so I didn't get hit by the pitch to make sure we preserved his perfect game. People are like, wait, he was your teammate? No, he was the opposing pitcher.
Yeah, pretty proud of that.
I just wanted to be part of history. It's stupid.
It's like in the fighting world, you believe how ridiculous it would be. Like Mike Tyson has like all the records for the fastest knockouts, right? Or maybe it's been broken since then.
You just
it's
take
like,
a dive faster.
It's like I want to be part of history. I don't want to ruin Mike Tyson's knockout streak, so I'm going to let him knock me out.
It's like Brett Favre diving so Strahan could set the record. The sack record.
Which was dumb of him to do.
Stupid. And then, by the way, he got confronted many years later by Mark Gastineau.
Told him, you hurt me.
You hurt me, Brett.
That was
It's actually
awkward.
sad.
It's very sad. A really good 30 for 30 New York sack exchange, but a very awkward moment.
19 strikeouts, no hitter, 1 hit by pitch to ruin the perfect game. But
how dare you, Murray State? You don't dive out of the way to preserve the perfect game.
If it was like,
shame on you.
If it was like 13-0 and you had no shot of like starting a rally by getting on base,
you swing for the fences every time. Yeah,
like sure, but come on. Let's go, people.
Wasn't it only like a 1-0 win? Like this was.
It was 3-0.
It was
right?
3-0. Okay, so you're 2 base runners away from having the tying run at
you
the
get
plate.
on base
You
and
want to
anyway
get
you
on base.
You got 2 innings left. I memean, come on. Anyway,
Also, elimination game. Like, do you want to go home? Like, if it's double elimination, so it's I still would be for it if he did the same thing if it wasn't an elimination game. But especially in an elimination game, you're gonna get out of the way and go home, and because you want to preserve the perfect game for the other team. Get out of here.
All right. The answers are coming in hot and heavy on the start bench cut with our return specialists: Reggie Dunn, Kalen Clay, Britton Covey, Pac-12 era, Power era, Utah football return specialist start bench cut. And you asked for the numbers, so just to give it context, by the way, Kalen Clay, I know you listen and you're a big fan of the show. I did not bring this up with any kind of hope that you would catch so many strays about something that happened 11 years ago. All right? Let's get over it, people. Let's show some forgiveness.
It was tongue-in-cheek by you bringing
But people,
that up.
most people are like, that's why I can't vote for him. That's why I can't
probably
start
a
him
lot
on
of
the bench.
gifts. Probably a lot of the gifts of him.
Thankfully, no.
Oh, okay.
But, okay, so here are the stats. And I combined the return stats because if you really start parsing out kick returner versus punt returner, I mean, it just gets endless, all right? So Kalen Clay pulled double duty that 2014 year, his only meaningful statistical year at the University of Utah, and he was an All-American, all right? He returned 3 punt returns for touchdowns, and he had a kick return for a touchdown, okay?
Great year.
Of course, there was one but that was a pass. Never mind. In any case, he was number 1 in the conference, number 1 in the NCAA in punt return touchdowns that year. So 1 season, 4 return touchdowns, right? Now you go to the other guys. Reggie Dunn, 2010, 2011, 2012. So 1 Mountain West year, 2 Pac-12 years. He ended up with 1,400 return yards. He averaged 31 yards per return. And because he was only a kick returner, he doesn't have meaningful punt return yards. The dude ended up with 5 kick return touchdowns. So in 1 season, Kalen Clay got 4. In 3 seasons, Reggie Dunn got 5 return touchdowns. And then you go to Britton Covey, 1,092 yards in the kick return category. In the punt return category, 838 yards in the kick return category. Covey returned 4 touchdowns in the punt world, 1 touchdown in the kickoff world. And that, of course, was 2015. Then post-mission, 18, 19, and 20 and 21. 20 is the half season that doesn't really count.
So the 1 kickoff return was his Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
Kickoff return.
That's right.
I didn't realize he didn't have another one. Wow.
5 return touchdowns for Covey, 5 return touchdowns for Reggie Dunn, 4 return touchdowns, but in 1 year for Kalen Clay.
Woo.
So there's a lot of ways you can slice this onion. If you extrapolate what Kalen Clay might have been able to do if he had been the guy for more than 1 year, or, of course, you live in the world that actually happened. Reggie Dunn and Britton Covey, each with 5 touchdowns on returns. Unevenly distributed, of course, because of punt return and kick return.
Yeah, you could play the what if game with Reggie Dunn. If you could say what if he was a punt returner too.
The thing is, it's really interesting because punt returners have to be shiftier. You've got to be better at catching the ball because you're under duress. And you have to have better field vision and recognition. A lot of times kick returners are even faster than punt returners, even though in most cases they will pull double duty at least sometimes. But 1,482 yards just as a kick returner, 31 yards per return for Reggie Dunn. Britton Covey, 25 yards per kick return, and just under 12 as a career punt return. He was 16 and almost 15 in his final 2 years. I don't think that makes the equation easier for me. They each had 5, and Kalen Clay had 4 in 1 year. 877-353-0700. Start, bench, cut. The return specialist from the power football era for your Utes. At Real OC Sports if you want to tweet at me. Take a quick one. We come back with Trey Fitzgerald. Talk a little RSL next on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
It's broken up by Justin Glad. Those are the moments that are not coming off for DC, and now leads to transitional moment the other way. And a lot of space for Johnny Russell. Johnny Russell! His first start for Real Salt Lake. His first goal for Real Salt Lake. 1-0.
Johnny Russell goal last Saturday. RSL win over DC United. That sound courtesy of the MLS Season Pass on Apple TV+. First start, first goal. Trey Fitzgerald, RSL Senior Director of Communications, friend of the program, joins us now. Trey, welcome. How are you?
OC, good buddy. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for giving us some time. You knew that was going to happen in Johnny Russell's first start. You've been saying it for years.
Johnny Russell is a MLS vet, and he's got a flair for the dramatic. So in his 200th MLS appearance, his first start for RSL, his first home appearance for RSL, he scored, 23rd minute, something like that, midway through the first half. And he was the danger man in that first half on Saturday night as RSL snapped a 7-game drought without a win. So he's rounding into form as we get ready for a very, very busy summer.
Well, you mentioned the drought. I was going to wait until I talked about how rough May got, but things are looking up in June. First result in a long time. How crucial was that, given the timing and obviously the way that May went?
Yeah, obviously it's kind of a weird schedule here in June with all the international breaks with the Gold Cup and the FIFA Club World Cup. So RSL just a game on June 14th and a game on June 28th, one home, one away, and then we'll have 7 of our next 9 starting July 5th. 7 out of 8 starting July 5th at home. So I think losing to the LA Galaxy on May 31st left a pretty rough taste in everybody's mouth, and they had to sit on that for 2 weeks. So it was imperative to come out at home, get the full 3 points. Pablo's talked that we need to get to 45 points to think about a playoff berth this year, and with 10 out of 17 remaining games at home, it's probably not realistic to run the table at home and get 30 points, but that's the goal. And you got the first 3 Saturday against really a pretty poor DC United team. So the guys are now on a little bit of a CBA mandated summer break, but they'll come back ready to go to Kansas City next weekend, the 28th, and that'll be a big homecoming for both Johnny Russell and Willie Agata. And then, again, starting July 5th, RSL is back in Sandy for the better part of 6 weeks.
So, again, not to belabor the point of a really rough May, but to go through that and to still be within striking distance of a wild card spot and to still be able to say, you know what, we could go 7 in a row, not going the way we wanted it to, and still have an opportunity with a tweak here, a change there, absolutely to be in a comfortable spot and in contention for a playoff. I mean, how typical is it to be able to have a bad whole month and still be where you're at?
Yeah, OC, you know, and people that follow MLS know it's an interminably long marathon. It's not a sprint. And to have 34 games between basically your preseason on January 15th and your championship game on December 7th or 8th, a lot of things can happen. You have international windows, you have transfer windows. Obviously, a year ago, RSL was red hot the first half of the season. First place, a 15-game unbeaten run, Chicho and Andre scoring goals left and right. And then here we are a year later where it was the exact opposite. You know, Pablo has talked publicly, hey, box to box, we've been really good. We know we have a really good core, but you make a defensive error that shoots yourself in the foot. You don't take advantage of those attacking opportunities, and that's how you end up with a 7-game winless drought. So this team went from April 26th in San Diego to Saturday at home against DC without a win. And sure, there's bad bounces, there's self-inflicted mistakes, there's poor refereeing decisions, there's all those little things that prevent you from getting, you know, the full 3 points. But, you know, this team has stayed together. That's probably been the most impressive thing to me, is that we got a lot of young guys that are kind of just getting bled in through experience and learning the hard way. But as you know, there is no better teacher than experience. And now you've got 18-year-old Xavier Gozo and 17-year-old Aiden Hazarkani and 21-year-old Diego Luna, 22-year-old Dominic Marchuk, just trying to figure it all out, figure out how to play with each other and how to manage this league. And I guess the good thing is that you put together 2 or 3 straight wins, no matter what point in the season, you kind of rocket up the standings, because this is a parity-driven league. Nobody's running away and hiding. So with 10 of 17 at home in the second half of the season, I think there's a real opportunity, especially if you add a couple difference makers here during the transfer window that opens in July, gives Emeka Anelli, the captain, a chance to get healthy. There's a whole host of things that might benefit RSL with a backloaded schedule and a home-heavy schedule in July, August, September.
I want to go back to what you were just talking about with the youth on this club right now. You've been through so many iterations of RSL soccer, and you've seen kind of the dynamics of the different rosters. Sometimes it's been veteran dudes bringing along a young group. Sometimes it's been a young group trying to figure it out and sort of taking premature leadership positions because of where they're at. How does this young core fit in kind of the annals of RSL roster construction history based on the role they have to play for one another as rising young stars.
Yeah, I think this is, the youngest group we've had. We've had one or two young guys. You may remember Luis Gill was a big part of that team that went to the MLS Cup and the Open Cup final in 2013. We've had other young guys get a cup of coffee here and there, but to have the level of responsibility that Diego Luna has, having barely turned 21 and having that level of responsibility for both the U.S. men's national team right now as well as Real Salt Lake, that's unprecedented. And then Gozo is a kid who was born in West Valley, grew up in Eagle Mountain, came into our academy when he was 14. He's played a bunch of different attacking positions. He's juggled responsibilities with U.S. youth national teams, the Monarchs, and he's kind of proof of concept for the youth development initiative that we've really embraced over, probably the last 15 years. If you go back to our Arizona-based academy days, and then we moved everything to Harriman in February of 2018. So, Justin Glad was part of the old guard, Bodie Hidalgo, but now you seem like you've got greater numbers of quality coming up at a younger age, and more importantly, OC, those players are coming now in attacking positions. So attacking midfielders, strikers, wingers. It's not just goalkeepers and defenders like it kind of had been for a decade, and honestly, where most of the American youth development has historically come.
Trey Fitzgerald, RSL Senior Director of Communications, my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Let's talk a little Diego Luna with the U.S. men's national team. He's what they need. He's the fix. Simple as that, right, Trey?
Oh man, he's amazing to watch, and look, there's a lot of noise around the men's national team, and some of it's fair, some of it isn't. But Diego Luna is Mauricio Pochettino's poster boy for passion, determination, commitment to the shield, the badge, his country. That guy brings it, whether he's coming on at halftime in a game against Switzerland when they're losing 4-0. And part of the reason they were losing was just the absolute apathy. And then, Diego is and he's learned this with Pablo, and he's learned some lessons the hard way, but he's understood now that if you commit to the defensive side of the ball, even if you're in the attacking end, you're going to win those battles. You're going to get the ball in a more dangerous position, and you're going to set yourself up for success. So that is precisely what Diego does week in, week out for RSL over the last year and a half, and that's exactly what he's done for a national team that's honestly in a bit of a transition, a year away now from hosting the World Cup, which will be the biggest international sporting event in global history. So there's a lot of pressure, but Diego is embracing the pressure, and we could not be more proud of him, kind of translating the success he's had here to kind of that stage where very few others are stepping up in terms of both attitude and quality.
As far as the pool play, as far as the group stage here, Team USA, they're going to finish on top of that group, right? I mean, Saudi,
Correct.
Haiti, Trinidad and Tobago, who they already beat 5-0. Like, at least that portion of this Gold Cup tournament, we're okay, right?
Yeah, and then they'll get to the knockout stages here. I think the group stage ends the 22nd, and then so there'll be a knockout game starting on the 26th, a quarterfinal, and that's where they'll start to see, a Mexico, a Jamaica, a Canada, Costa Rica even, who are probably the favorites besides the U.S. And this is a younger group. It's an MLS-based group. You've heard Spence and Camrani and others on your station, I'm sure, talk about Andy Larson as well, talk about that this U.S. team, Pochettino's probably missing 6 or 7 starters, presumed starters that are European-based, that we think will start in the World Cup next year. But everywhere I look nationally, and there's a lot of MLS haters out there for various reasons that we probably don't need to get into, but I think it's nearly unanimous that everybody thinks not only should Diego Luna be on that U.S. World Cup team a year from now, but he should be a starter because of his varied skill set, his nonstop engine, and certainly his quality on the ball. His 2 assists that he had against Trinidad on Sunday night, one of which was really a goal that deflected off a teammate, but he was really pulling the strings, and it could have been a lot uglier. It seemed like the U.S. kind of pulled their foot off the gas when they were up, I think 3-0 at half and 5-0 pretty early there in the second half.
So we didn't talk about this. It has nothing to do with RSL, but Patrice Evra, you know Patrice Evra.
Sure. Yeah.
Patrice Evra signed with the Professional Fighters League, with the PFL, to fight in France for us. I had no idea he was into MMA. Apparently, he's been training for a while. I mean, he's older than me, but he was a Man U captain. He was an England captain for a while, and I was like, okay, I don't have a good context for Patrice Evra. I didn't watch him. You know what I mean? So I texted our guy Dunny, and I was like, give me the American football equivalent of Patrice Evra signing to fight. He's like, I don't know, like Tony Romo. And immediately it was the most deflating thing. So I was like, I don't want to see Tony Romo fight. Is that an accurate is that a good call by Dunny?
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have gone with some diva wide receiver type. Not a Deebo Samuel, but oh man, like I'm old, so like Vance Johnson, the old Broncos receiver, kind of a pretty boy, fast speed, but you don't think of him as being really up for the fight, especially if you're French, right? French aren't known unless you're Eric Cantona, old center back. Like the French just aren't known for fighting, in my humble opinion. But good for Patrice. I mean, there are plenty of ex-athletes that, maybe they gravitate towards golf like Romo, but we've seen some other NFL guys, right, that have a limited success, being more than maybe just a sideshow, I guess, in the fight game. But I'll leave those comparisons to you.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I don't know if he's ever actually going to fight for us. He signed, and he's got that rival. Who's the guy that he has beef with? The Suarez or whatever?
Oh, yeah. Suarez has beef with everybody. He's the one that bites ears and
right.
that kind of thing. So,
yeah. So I guess they were trying to.
And he's got two knees that essentially don't function, except he's a teammate with Messi. So Messi still makes him look better than he ever has.
Well, in any case, they were trying to make that matchup happen, and I guess it was. Yeah. I don't know, but I wanted to take the opportunity.
When Suarez runs out of money, he may opt for that opportunity.
Well, I don't know how much I want to call that fight, but it'll probably be me on it if it ever happens. Anyway.
Nice.
Trey, you're the man. Appreciate you giving us some time.
Anytime, OC. Talk to you guys soon.
Trey Fitzgerald from RSL, Senior Director of Communications. Diego Luna is a beast for U.S. men's national team, and we are lucky to have him. 21 years old, unbelievably bright future. So good on RSL for getting off the schneid. It was 4 losses, 3 draws through May, and then last Saturday, one of 2 games, 2 matches in June, you got the result you needed. They're 18 points on the year, 4 points out of the wild card spot, but plenty of football, plenty of soccer left to play. ESPN 792 on FM are telling you to start your engines. Monster Jam World Finals coming to Utah July 4th and 5th. We are giving away tickets next week right here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Tickets are also available at Ticketmaster.com. Lots left to get to on the Sean O'Connell Show. Don't go anywhere. How did Shohei Ohtani do in his first trip back to the mound since 2023? We discuss next on ESPN 700, 92 on FM. Families are being torn apart right now by the start bench cut question about power era Utah football return specialists. Reggie Dunn, Britton Covey, Kalen Clay. Start one, bench one, cut one. The debate rages on. 877-353-0700 at Real OC Sports on the tweet machine.
It would seem to me, OC, after you read those stats during the hot lunch, right?
Yeah.
That, number one, this is a much harder decision after you read those stats for me. But number two, Britton Covey seems to be the better of being good at both things, punt return and kickoff,
he
out
was
of the three. Because Dunn
was
didn't
the best at both, yes.
Yeah, Dunn didn't return punts at all.
Right.
So obviously that eliminates him as far as the versatility goes. Clay did both, but Covey seemed to be better than Clay was. But then you can't. I can't get past. He only did it for 1 year, though, right?
Kalen Clay. Hold on. Was Britton Covey better than Kalen Clay? Because Kalen Clay, in 1 year, in 2014, 3 punt return touchdowns, 1 kick return touchdown.
Yeah.
In 1 year,
which
Britton
almost
Covey's entire career
was basically that
4-1.
Yeah, it was basically Covey's entire career. But if you look at yardage, though, but then that also gets higher if Clay, if you think, well, if you project on multiple years for Kalen Clay, I don't know. It's tough, man.
Yeah, so then you're like, okay, well, what about the average return yardage? Because maybe usually your average comes down the longer you do something.
Yeah.
The more punt returns you have, your average is going to come down. But Kalen Clay has Britton Covey beat on punt return average by 3 yards. So, I mean, look, that's the reason it's a start bench cut. The reason I threw this one on there today was because the offensive line one I started with was too easy for people. There was no disagreement. It was start Jordan Gross, bench Zane Beatles, cut Anthony Brown.
We needed some controversy and some debate on the show.
And then you get a little context into it because at first everyone's just like, cut Kalen Clay, cut Kalen Clay, cut Kalen Clay. And then you throw some stats at him and you remind people how special he was as an All-American for that 1 year. How special he was, and now it makes the decision a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, but OC, why was he not trusted to do it more than 1 year?
Okay. There's a lot of ways
I channeled my Spence Checketts fake hot takes radio.
You can easily you can easily slice the apple however you want and figure out how you want to do it.
Yeah.
And again, this is just Utah. This is not their experience at the NFL level where Kalen Clay got his time with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Reggie Dunn had a couple opportunities.
Britton Covey
is
still going.
Yeah. So Kalen Clay, this is another thing. And I don't want you to factor this in. Kalen Clay.
Listen to it, but then disregard it.
Yes. How many teams do you think gave Kalen Clay a shot in the NFL?
Ooh. 3?
5.
5.
Oh, sorry. 6.
6.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Detroit Lions, Baltimore Ravens, Carolina Panthers twice, Buffalo Bills twice, New York Giants.
Okay.
6 different teams saw something special in that guy. Had a hard time sticking, but look, if you played from 15 to 18 and then, rest in peace, Salt Lake Stallions, we would have seen him back at Rice Eccles Stadium.
Shout out to Brian Brown for that one. By the way, speaking of Brian Brown, he's going to be co-hosting with me on Friday on the show.
Dude, what? That's
yes,
awesome.
The Brown Bear and James Peterson on
Shout
the
out to
Sean
the Brown
O'Connell
Bear
show.
I like that.
It'll be Porter and I on Thursday.
Okay.
And I just confirmed it yesterday afternoon. Brian Brown will be with me on Friday.
All right. Love that.
Yeah, but shout out to him. He had that. He was part of that brief Salt Lake Stallions run. With the, what was that called? What was that league called?
Is it
the Alliance? It wasn't Alliance of American
Alliance
Football.
of American Football.
AAF. It was, wasn't it?
I wish that would have happened. The gear for that was awesome.
It was awesome. The colors were great. The fact that it was at Rice Eccles Stadium was cool.
There were several teams that had really good branding and had great starter gear, like starter brand gear. I wish I would have pulled the trigger and got a starter jacket, the Stallions starter jacket, the satin one. Same thing, Arizona's team that was coached. It was supposed to be coached by Neuheisel.
Was that Hot Shots?
Hot Shots, really great branding.
Yeah,
so cool.
Maybe I'll see if Brian Brown has any merch that he can bring by on Friday. got any extra merch you can bring from
Throw it on the wall.
Stallions? Full steed ahead. Yeah, that was tough. Still tough to think how brief a run the AAF and the Stallions had.
Start Clay, bench Reggie, cut Covey. What?
Why does you?
2301.
I don't see how you can cut Covey.
Cut Covey, and this hurts me to say that. Cutting Britton Covey, you're going to get one of these is an Arizona number, one of them is a Nevada number. Good, because you're going to get pushed out of the state of Utah for cutting Britton Covey.
They already were.
You've been ostracized by the community here.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't see how you cut Covey. I think the only cuts you can make is Clay or Dunn. And it's because Covey's had the best versatility of both sides. And you could again
don't even get me started on what Covey means to the locker room either.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like you can't. I think Dunn. I may even change my answer. I cut Clay earlier. I might cut Dunn because Clay did both really well.
You're cutting the first team All-American kick returner, the leader in Utah football history in kick return yards and kick return touchdowns.
My revised answer is not official yet.
Okay. I'm glad we found one that's this tough for everybody.
We haven't heard are you going to give your take at the end of the show? Are you saving it then or
I'll tell you right now.
Okay.
I'm starting Covey. I'm keeping Dunn. I'm cutting Caleb
Okay, so
Clay.
you and I agree with my original.
Yes.
one.
Now, again, I don't think there's a wrong answer, but I think that means there's not a real right answer too.
Yeah.
Because are we doing this for 1 year? Because if so, then Kalen Clay is the best one.
Yeah, Kalen Clay is.
Are we doing this for a 3 or 4 year cycle? Well, I don't know. Do I have to pay Kalen Clay in the transfer portal? I don't know. There's a lot of questions we got to ask here.
Does USC pick him up after he helped them win? Oh man, my bad.
There's just so many ways.
We weren't going to bring it up.
This.
I'm sorry.
I'm glad it's a good transition. The versatility, though, of you can't cut Britton Covey. We were talking about this yesterday. Shohei Ohtani, the Dan Patrick Show was covering this as well. Shohei Ohtani pitched yesterday, and it was fine. It wasn't great.
Yeah, and I think yesterday I was under the impression it would be more of a full start, but apparently I had that wrong. Apparently it was he was going to be an opener, not really a starter, and he did his job.
He did. He pitched 1 inning. He gave up 1 earned run. He got robbed on an umpire's call on what should have been a strikeout on Manny Machado. It was a fine performance. Here's the thing. He's coming back, easing his way back into pitching. So that by itself, you're like, okay, we'll see how it goes. Don't worry about it. But also, he went 2 of 4 from the plate with 2 runs batted in. Like, your pitching performance was adequate for what it was, right?
Well, you needed him to be.
You might not be happy because you're like, well, you're supposed to be the MVP, you're the best player in the game. What's going on here? We've been waiting for this for a long time. That was not what I was hoping for. And then you get to go, oh, all right, well, but look what I did at the plate. We beat the Padres. Like, shut up. That is something that you don't get to do or you don't get to be as an athlete, especially at the pro level, very often. How many times did Britton Covey have a game where, as a wide receiver, he didn't produce the way that he wanted to, but then he gave you a punt return touchdown? How many times was the opposite true, where his return game was just okay, but then he gave you 100 yards of all-purpose, running fly sweeps and catching things out of the slot? Like, the versatility and the ability to contribute in these multiple ways is just such a magical thing at that level of sport. In Little League, it's always, all right, the 4 best athletes they lead the team in tackles, they lead the team in yards, and it goes that way.
They're the best pitcher and the best hitter.
The best pitcher and the best hitter on your team, right? And there's like 2, 3, 4. There's everyone knows, right? This went viral last year on the internet. Anyone you know can name the fastest kid in their elementary school. Fastest kid in 3rd grade, fastest kid in 4th grade. When Trevor Moss moved in, suddenly he was the fastest kid in the elementary school. He was the best athlete. He was our quarterback in high school. He was a great baseball player. He was an All-American wrestler. You're just the best. You know what I mean? When you're young, you're just the best at all those things. To keep that going to the level when you are a professional is absolutely insane. It's why you heard me, probably got so sick of me talking about this, about Travis Hunter all year long. To be an All-American performer as a corner and as a wide receiver is miraculous. You've seen it with guys who are All-American level wide receivers and kick or punt returners, like we're talking about with somebody like Britton Covey. 2 totally different skill sets. I mean, hell, you're running in the opposite direction. One is asking you to run fast forward. The other thing is asking you to backpedal quickly. Like, it's just insane. Shohei Ohtani is that dude. At the college level, Britton Covey was that guy. Kalen Clay also was a great receiver for the University of Utah. He was also valuable offensively. He's not going to go down, I don't think, as one of the all-time greats at the University of Utah. Steve Smith was a really good wide receiver. He was a better kick return specialist. And all of you people who are throwing his name and Shaky Smithson's name and Errol Tucker's name at me, those are not Pac-12 era guys, okay? So they're going to be a different start, bench, cut, poll. But, man, it's just sometimes you have these, you just stumble across these things where you're reminded of how inhuman Shohei Ohtani is. And then you look at the stats that are now years and years old for some of these other guys, and you're like, how effectively they have found a way to extend the elementary school dominance of that star kid from whatever. I was a Willow Canyon guy. What was your elementary called?
Dixie Downs, St. George.
Okay, what's the mascot?
Wranglers.
Dixie Downs Wranglers.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
It's a different name now. It's Dixie something, but it was.
They
Dixie
changed
Downs
Wranglers.
No, they might still be Wranglers, but the name of the
not
school
Dixie
is not
anymore.
Dixie Downs. It's Dixie something, but it's not Dixie Downs anymore.
Why was Downs offensive?
No, not that it was offensive. They just changed. I don't know. They changed the name. It was Sun at one point. It was something else. I don't know.
All right. Okay.
So
Wranglers,
the
that's a cool one.
Wranglers, yeah.
Did you have a school song that you know now?
No, I don't remember the elementary school song. No,
James, come on, pull it together.
I'm gonna have to see if someone. I'm gonna have to text my friend group that went to elementary school with me. The ones that still are in contact.
I will
with,
spare
see if they
you,
know.
but I could very easily bust out the Willow Canyon Wildcat song right now. It's very easy.
Wildcats is a good one.
That's too generic.
You Wildcats in elementary school, Wildcats in college.
That's
Look
right.
At you.
But it's the Wildcats. I love my Weber State time. Great, great, great. Shout out to everyone up in Ogden. Wildcats is like the 4th most common mascot name in America across all levels.
Tigers is probably the next one.
I think Eagles is number 1.
Eagles, okay.
Eagles, like, stop it.
There's the amount of universities that are Tigers is crazy. It just in like the power 4 alone.
You'd think there'd actually be more in professional ranks, but instead they went like fancy Tigers, Bengals. They got specific.
And Lions. They would, yeah. Different kinds of big cats.
No gorillas. No elephants.
No respect for the apes.
No hippos, no polar bears. I mean, honestly, if we're talking about the scariest animals that you have no chance of surviving an attack, like you go like orcas, one, the great white. I mean, I guess the sharks, San Jose Sharks, could be any kind of shark.
Yeah,
there are great whites in the Farallon Islands off the Bay Area, so maybe that's what they are, is great whites. But I mean, people didn't think about these things. You know, a wildcat couldn't even kill you, James. They're tiny. It would maul you, it would make you feel bad. You'd have to get a bunch of stitches, but you're not going to die if a wildcat attacks you.
Yeah.
And a wrangler, they would get you.
Yeah, they'll rope you and take you into the corral.
I don't know how we got off on that tangent, but I'm sad about it.
Go Wranglers.
In any case, keep the answers coming in. 877-353-0700 at Real OC Sports on Twitter. I'm not even going to read most of them, but I just like scrolling through during the breaks and seeing what people have to say. It's fantastic. People are getting a little bit bothered.
Do we have some? Do we have cranky texter appearances on the text line today?
We had a cranky texter appear right off the bat today.
Awesome.
The first 5 minutes of the show, cranky texter, because I was going on the start bench cut. We were setting it up for the whole show. I can't believe you're talking about this. There's so much we need to get into. What do we need to get into? You want me to tell you that Tyrese Halliburton sucked last night? You watched that. You saw it. All right? Knock it off, people.
We could go all first take the way they did, and Markieff Morris saying it was a horrible mistake to play Tyrese Halliburton in the second half.
All right.
In a Game 5 series tied 2-2, you have a chance. If you win this game, you have
James.
a closeout game at home. Yeah. Don't play your best player.
Everyone knows you don't play your best player because he's got a boo-boo. All right?
Not even a strained hamstring or anything. Hamstring tightness. Like, yeah, get out there and play. Score some points. He didn't end up doing that.
All right, before we take a break, I want to remind everybody that the Steel Vault is waiting for your call. 801-878-9976. Last week, before I decided to go on camera, shout out to myself for being a television star as well, right? I left the show last week. I go straight down to the Steel Vault in Holiday, and from there I went straight to the airport. James, let me tell you, 25 minutes in the red light bed. Red light therapy, I'm brand new to this. The red light therapy for cellular rejuvenation. And there's a science behind it, but just the sort of euphoric feeling that your body gets after some relaxation, being bombarded by the warmth and happiness of that red light, that by itself is enough for me. So that by itself is a reason for you to go check out the Steel Vault in Holiday, steelvault.com as well for the online consultations. You just click the book now button. Easiest thing in the world. If that's not enough, if you're not into the red light therapy, that's fine. You need hormone treatments. They can handle that for you. You're worried about the hairline creeping backwards. They can take care of that. You've got the skin treatments that you need. You got a lot of wrinkles, stress lines like James is going to start learning about. By the way, his hair right now, all dark brown. His beard, all dark. Very soon, he's got a child now. It's going to go gray. James, that hairline, Steel Vault can fix it as it starts to retreat because of your stress. They can take care of everything. I'm talking about the surface level stuff and the deeper needs that your body has based on your hormone health, not getting enough sleep, all of that they can address. 801-878-9976. Tell them OC sent you. You get 20% off as an ESPN 700 listener.
Roxanne, please turn on the red light.
Okay. You feel good about yourself?
Well, now it's appropriate because I am a dad.
At least sing it.
Roxanne.
There it is. There it is. All right. So the Pac-12 is narrowing in on another football member. All right. I asked a poll, or I put a poll out there asking you to compare the old Mountain West Conference and the reconstituted Pac-12 Conference. I want to get into that discussion next on the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network. At Real OC Sports, that's how you participate in all of our Twitter polls. We got a couple of them up today. One based on an article in The Athletic about GMs in college football. That one, in order to vote from an informed perspective, you probably should read the article. It's an easy read. I love the work The Athletic does. The link is in the tweet. But which type of GM is ideal for Utah football? Right now they've got kind of a combo between two of the four categories, all right? So the way The Athletic broke it down, celebrity GM, NFL hire, traditional college football riser, or unofficial GM with GM duties. That's where Utah's at right now. They kind of split the GM responsibilities between Bobby Blecken, who's that traditional college football riser, and other guys in the program who have other titles, but they're also doing GM stuff. There have been discussions about whether a celebrity GM, a celebrity alum, might be the right guy. Like an Eric Weddle would be phenomenal for this. But also you got to be willing to do it. You got to want to do it.
Do you think, not to totally get out in left field with this, but since you brought up celebrity GM maybe being a route that Utah should consider, do you think Steve Smith would have certainly a poor man's version of this, but would have the Deion Sanders type, like I'm going to talk a lot and get a lot of attention for our program effect on Utah football if they did go that route?
The very watered down version of that, yes.
Because he had, obviously, it's cut from the same cloth. Very, like to be vocal, like to talk about how great they are, and it brings a lot of attention. So I wonder if that might do the fundraising part of, if he might be really good at the fundraising part of that if they went for the celebrity GM.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Totally speculative, totally just
Steve doesn't
popped in my head.
Steve doesn't come back that often.
It's true.
So I don't know how much, here's the thing. Whoever your GM is has to love the university. Alex Smith has done a commencement address. He did the Ring of Honor ceremony. He hasn't been back a lot besides that.
No.
And there's nothing wrong with that. He's been welcomed by every community. He grew up in the San Diego area. That's a great place to be. He came into college here. He was drafted in the Bay Area. Great place to be. He's been to all these cool spots, right? So settling wherever you settle, that's not up to me. You got to – Weddle has shown that he loves Utah football. Yeah. He's back all the time. He's got a house here. His in-laws are not too far away down in central Utah. He's tied to the state in a way that those other guys aren't.
He's settled in the San Diego area, but because, again, that's where he's from.
Yes.
But he's back often. He visits often enough that it makes you feel like he would enjoy having that kind of a role, and he would really do a good job of being an ambassador.
They lived here during the COVID mess. Anyway, and he's the lowest hanging fruit. There's other guys. You know who would be really great? Zane Beadles would be amazing. Zane lives in Florida, though.
Yeah.
He lives in Florida now. There's a whole list of guys that might fit the bill. And by the way, it doesn't have to be just an all-time great from your program. It can be somebody with other ties to the university that has notoriety. The thing is, for Utah, Utah is a school with not a lot of super famous alum. BYU's got more. In the football world and outside the football world, they just have found more random Cougars have found their way into the spotlight. So there's an opportunity there. The NFL hired the traditional college football riser, the unofficial GM with GM duties. That's one of the poll questions. I also asked the question because the Pac-12 looks like they're about to add Texas State as their football school. They have 8 schools already, but Gonzaga doesn't have a football program. So in order to be a football conference, you have to add a football-playing athletic department, and Texas State appears to have emerged as the leader in that clubhouse. So I asked the question, which is a better conference, the 2005 to 2010 Mountain West, that's after you added TCU, or the reconstituted Pac-12? Washington State, Oregon State, Fresno, Boise, Utah State, San Diego State, Colorado State, Texas State. 8 teams with football programs. 05 to 2010 Mountain West was TCU, BYU, Utah, Colorado State, New Mexico, Air Force, UNLV, Wyoming, San Diego State.
Yeah, people, because it's been long enough and Boise State's been a member of the Mountain West for so long, might mistakenly think that Boise State was part of that conference. They were not, which makes it they had 3 teams that were threatening to bust the BCS, and Utah did a couple of times as part of that Mountain West. Obviously, if they had Boise State, they would have had 4, but they didn't. They did not at that time. So, I think I might take the Mountain West from the late 2000s.
And I know that there's biases here because Utah was part of that conference, and 2 of Utah's best years were as members of the Mountain West Conference, and one of those best years was during that window where TCU was also in the conference with you. But, look what the conference did. You had we were still BCS back then, right?
Yeah.
TCU busted the BCS.
At the last year of that Mountain West, yeah.
And so did Utah, right? BYU had a couple years in that window where they were highly ranked teams.
Yeah, they were ranked almost every year in that stretch. They didn't
Air
ever
Force
break through.
randomly had a great year in there. So, and now again, you're judging. It's a little apples to oranges, but you're judging the accomplishments of teams that were in that conference, and we know how it looked, versus what we think is going to happen with Washington State and Oregon State have been left behind by realignment. It sucks. I hate it. I both of those schools, I think, have more to offer than just being relegated, but that's what happened to them. Fresno and Boise, there's a lot of similarities. Boise is the more decorated of those. Utah State, we know all about what the Aggies have done at their best and what it looks like at their worst. Same is true for San Diego State. That's a team that just continues to produce NFL talent without producing meaningful wins for the most part. Colorado State, they were better when they were a Mountain West team. Or I should say they were better when they were an old Mountain West team. And then Texas State is kind of an analog to San Diego State.
Yeah,
where every 4 years they'll turn out a good team.
Right. I think I see Washington State and Oregon State as like I'm going to presume they're going to be near the top of the conference, either first, second, or third most years. Boise State, probably the other one. And then Utah State and San Diego State, depends on the year, depends on the coach, right? With those years, but they have more good years than not. Recently, that's been the case. So you got 5 quality teams versus you had 3 great teams in the Mountain West era. I'd take the 3 great teams and then some so-so, the rest of the conference, over 5 just quality teams.
I guess they're going to call it the Pac-8 again if they officially make this happen. And
Pac-8 with 9 basketball.
There will be one school in that conference, in that Pac conference, that you can actually see the Pacific Ocean from that city.
That
is actually nearby.
I mean, at least Gonzaga. I mean, they're not football, but they're part of the basketball. At least the state they reside in borders it.
Yeah.
You can't see it from there.
But
okay,
so Corvallis is not close to the ocean in any way.
But they're in Oregon.
All right. Pullman is not close to the ocean in any way, nor is Spokane, where Gonzaga's at. San Diego State, you can see the ocean.
Yeah.
All right. Everyone else,
Fresno's in the
Central Valley.
Central Valley in California. At least there's 4 teams in coastal states. But that's wild.
I didn't even think of that until now. There's going to be 8 teams in a Pacific conference, and one of them actually has access to the Pacific Ocean.
Wow.
And look, Utah didn't make sense in the Pac.
No.
Neither did Colorado, obviously. But at least the conference, it had Washington. The ocean is right there. the 2 Bay Area schools, the 2 LA schools. It is right. You had at least that conference had it made sense. You're not even going to see the Pacific Ocean when you're traveling on the road to Pac-12 schools if you don't play San Diego State on the road.
Pacific time zone. Oh, wait, Boise.
And the Central, by the way, for Texas.
Yeah, in Central.
Texas State is in San Marcos, Texas, which is kind of an underrated little spot between San Antonio and Austin. What are they, the Bobcats?
Could be right.
All right, we got to take a break anyway. Tom Callahan's going to join us. Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight. Do the Florida Panthers close it out? We'll ask Tom Callahan what he thinks in 3 minutes. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
Now it's tapped across as the rink-wide pass intended for Bouchard, intercepted. And Marchand comes the other way on a break and scores. He beat 2 different defenders and then beat Cal Pickard. It's 3-0 Panthers.
This is just an incredible goal by Brad Marchand. And that puck was one of those 50-50 pucks in the neutral zone. And then Corey Perry could not overpower Marchand down low. Somehow he slips it right through the legs of Cal Pickard. What an unbelievable individual effort from Marchand.
Brad Marchand with a goal in a Game 5 win for the Stanley Cup Finals. That sound courtesy of Sports USA. John Allers and Brian Hayward on the call. Game 6 at 6 right here on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 792 on FM. We are your home of the Stanley Cup Final. Tom Callahan, host of the Locked On Mammoth podcast, friend of the program, NHL insider, joins us now. Tom, welcome. How are you?
Sean, doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. I'm hoping, because I don't have a real horse in this race, I'm hoping that we get an Edmonton win tonight so we get a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Final. How likely do you think it is that Florida closes out?
Oh, boy, that's the question on everybody's mind, especially with the game being in Florida. And, Sean, what's kind of been crazier, before we even talk about the hockey, has been the travel. For whatever reason, and maybe it was building availability or just TV dates that they wanted, in the beginning, the first 4 games, there was 2 days off between each home game for teams. No travel, nothing. There was 2 days off in Edmonton, 2 days off in Florida. Now they went Game 4, travel day, Game 5, travel day, Game 6. I was like, what is going on? So the teams are going to be tired by this point. I mean, it's one of the longest trips in the NHL is Miami to Edmonton. And second year in a row of doing this. So, I mean, we're still going to get everything these teams have. I just think they'd have more if they had a day off between pivotal games like a Game 5 and a Game 6. But, man, that's the question. You asked me last time, Tom, do you think Edmonton's in trouble? At the time, I didn't. And then they absolutely laid an egg in Game 3 and have kind of, fought their way back. But Florida, and this is what I thought at the outset of the series, I thought Florida looked just a little bit better. Edmonton has been confused on their goaltending, and it's not really their goaltending, it's more the defense. And I think Florida's a little better. I want to see Edmonton win tonight, too. I want a Game 7.
You just said something interesting. The Edmonton problem for you is more with the defense in front of their goaltenders than with the goaltending itself, because Skinner's had his rough goes, and, of course, then they go to Pickard, and there's mixed results all over the place. That's not necessarily just on them.
It's not. And when Skinner was pulled after giving up 3 in the first of, I think it was Game 3, that was a team pull. That was done to try to motivate the team, get them back going, or maybe it was Game 4. They kind of run together at this point. But that was done to try to get everybody back into it. And you know what bothered me, Sean? It's not just hockey, any sport, but I'll use a football analogy. If you're going into your weekend and your coach has not named your starting quarterback by Tuesday or Wednesday, both quarterbacks are going to scratch their heads and have their confidence diminished. And I think Edmonton has done the disservice to their goaltenders of not just saying, okay, yes, you're going to be the guy, take your 2 days to prepare, take your day to prepare, and get ready for it. And because they've vacillated and hemmed and hawed, I mean, that doesn't help the goalie's confidence either. So, but the defense in front of them, Edmonton, it's kind of funny. When their defense shows up, they show up on the score sheet. But they really haven't been taking care of the zone as much. The turnovers, which Brad Marchand seems to love to put in the back of the net, just they're not taking care of the puck as much as they need to, and it's costing them. And it's hard to hang the goalie out to dry all the time and expect him to stop everything.
Marchand has really been incredible in this series. But if it ended tonight, who is the Finals MVP?
So, for me, Conn Smythe winner, I would pick Brad Marchand, but it's like 50-50 Marchand and Bennett for Florida. So far, 15 goals in 15 games for Bennett. He has raised his game an unbelievable amount, and it is, since it's MVP of the entire playoffs, not just the Stanley Cup final, there's a very strong case to be made for Bennett because Florida may or may not be there without him. He's been the guy who's scored big goals in key situations and really gotten them through some difficult spots. So if you're like, Tom, I want to bet you $1 either way, that'd be a tough one because I'd have a hard time picking between the two. But I think what Marchand's done in the final has really, really grabbed some attention because he has put the Panthers on his back.
The Bennett thing, I think, is even more intriguing for Utah Mammoth fans because his name has been linked to a potential acquisition once this season is over. And the Des News just had an article the other day, like, this is why the Mammoth should not go after Bennett. And the crux of that was that, hey, when he's expected to be a first-line guy, he's not as good. And also he's going to be really expensive because of what he has done in these Stanley Cup finals and in these Stanley Cup playoffs. Where do you stand on the potential for Bennett to fit in with the Mammoth?
I mean, I think his contributions are not only what you get in goals and assists. He's a glue guy. He's a gritty player. He fits in great with the Bill Armstrong Mammoth MO. I think that, if you're going to pass on spending $11 or $12 million on Mitch Marner, which is fine. Then you have, as far as a value acquisition, if you look at where Utah's been giving out contracts, the high end so far has been $7 million. With the cap going up, it might go up a little more. I think Bennett could be a $7 million player. Is that a lot to spend on a 50, 60-point guy? It's a yes, but. You'd like to get him a little bit cheaper, but if you want a guy who knows how to win, and I think Cup winning experience is super valuable, then, you're paying for a little bit of that. And Bennett's a younger player. He's got a lot of tread on the tires, and he can give you an awful lot. And in 2 to 3 years, when this team is ready to start competing for Cups, he's going to be one of the most important guys on the roster.
And that's the calculus you have to make. I mean, that's why Bill Armstrong's paid the big bucks, and we just sit here talking about it because, we have to remember as sports fans that, yes, this team is now projecting to be hopefully a playoff team next year, but not a cup-winning team until maybe 2, 3, 4 years from now. And so whatever contract decisions are made have to be made with that in mind and not just, well, he makes us better in 2026.
Absolutely. And plus, you've got some contracts coming up at the end of this season we're going into, 25-26. Logan Cooley's going to be due a huge raise, which honestly I think could get announced around camp this year, just like it was for Dylan Gunther. And then Dylan Gunther got the big bump heading into the season, and is playing and everything. So I could see Cooley's extension coming down the line probably in that $7 million neighborhood. You have decisions on a guy like, Schmaltz coming up. What you want to do with him. And there's the nice thing is the way the contracts are staggered, it'll line up nicely for Utah to be able to move on and make decisions, still have cap room, just because, Bill Armstrong's been given the checkbook. I think he's smart enough not to just blow it. I think he's going to be real good with managing that. And I think Mammoth fans actually are in for a pretty good rise here. This is going to be a fun couple of years.
Tom Callahan is my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, host of the Locked On Utah Mammoth podcast, NHL Insider. All right, back to Game 6 tonight. I've been asking people this, and it almost feels icky every time it comes out of my mouth, but I do think it's a valid question. Do the Oilers need more from Connor McDavid than they're already getting?
Well, so it's funny you say that. It took him a while to score his first goal of the series.
Right.
And not that he's not over there making plays and doing all these things, but the answer actually, Sean, to your question is yes, they do, because they're not getting it from other guys. If they're going to win this cup in the next 2 games, Evander Kane suddenly has to be a factor. You want to talk about him as he can be a difference maker, but he can also be an absolute hothead. And I think Florida's been able to get under his skin and get him off his game. I mean, Leon Draisaitl's doing everything he can, and McDavid's setting up everybody. Bouchard's still back there slinging the puck in the power play. The power play's still scary. But you know what? Yes, if they're going to win a cup, look, it's Connor McDavid's team he's going to carry it to a Stanley Cup if they win this year. And I just don't see the other guys around him waking up as much as they needed to. Should he have more support? Absolutely. Does he? No. And so therefore your question is completely valid.
So it's interesting. When you get any variation of that answer, and most people are like, yeah, you probably need more out of McDavid. If you're talking about a different player, it feels hopeless from an Edmonton perspective, in my opinion. It's like, oh, well, I mean, these guys are already going as hard as this is the Stanley Cup final, and you're up against this incredible Panthers roster. But this is Connor McDavid we're talking about. I mean, he's the best player in the world, right?
Absolutely. Certainly the most skilled. And I've just watched any highlight where he walks through 4 or 5 opposing players and puts the puck in the net. Those guys are all NHLers too, but he's that good. And if he does that, if that's the first goal scored tonight where Connor McDavid goes through the D like a hot knife through butter and beats Bobrovsky, the whole mental aspect for both teams changes, because now the Oilers think, oh boy, he's here, and here we go. And Florida thinks, uh-oh, he's awake. So, yeah, I think it's important. I think it's huge. Edmonton better score the first goal. And, like I say, if it happens to be one of those beautiful do them a world of good.
How many guys in the NHL have that another team goes, uh-oh, look who's awake?
5, maybe 5. And 2 of them are on Edmonton. Draisaitl's another one.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, but there's not a lot of them. Austin Matthews is one of those guys that I think can scare you with when he's shooting the puck real well. You think to yourself, oh my, this is crazy. But it's fun to watch those guys. And the other thing is too, is you don't have to have that top 5 skill set to take over a game. And again, I'll go back to talking about Brad Marchand. Like, he has, just through smart play, but some grit, some determination, and just, reading plays well and making smart decisions. He's picking off passes. He's moving in breakaways, overtime goals. And the guy's 37 years old. He's past his dynamic phase, but he's still a smart player, and he's an excellent player, and he makes a huge difference in the series. So Edmonton could use that from somewhere else in the roster and let McDavid be McDavid.
Is that sort of Goldilocks zone age-wise, is it a little later in hockey than it is in some of the other pro sports that we're more versed in, because it's such a skill-based game? Obviously, you have to have the physicality as well, but there's so much skill involved, at least that can extend that window of greatness.
Yeah, I mean, and every sport has a different zone for those types of players. In hockey, you see a lot of players really tend to develop in their late 20s, early 30s. Even goaltenders actually around 30, 31, 32 can hit their prime, which is why Veg is in a great spot for the Mammoth. I think he's coming into his prime, which is also crazy because teams can give up on guys by the time they're 23. They're like, well, this guy's not going to make it. We're going to trade him away. It's like, he might not be good for another 5 years. And, hockey is better with the long view, but I mean, an NFL running back is washed up at 28, with rare exceptions. So, yeah, it is a little later, I think, in the NHL. And the truly exceptional players can play until their late 30s and still be impact players. But the reason we talk about them as exceptional is because there's so few of them. And, it's fun to watch the ones that are there. But, look, McDavid's in his prime. Draisaitl's in his prime. And again, I mean, we talked about this probably a month ago now heading into it. I said, are we going to wonder if he's going to be the greatest player to never win a cup? And Edmonton just needs that little bit extra, and they haven't been able to find it. So whether or not they have two of the 5 best players in the world right now, those guys can't do all of it.
Is Jágr still playing pro hockey somewhere?
He is. He's playing over in his native Czech, and the reason he's still playing, believe it or not, is because he bought part of the team, and the attendance was down. And when Jágr went back to lacing him up, attendance went through the roof, and they've been selling out. So
that's so awesome. 53 years old and still doing it.
Yep.
I remember, NHL '92. I think is the really good one on the old Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo systems. And Jágr was like, I don't know, second-year player. This is in the early 90s, and he's still at it. It's pretty incredible.
You know what? His dad told him, quick story, his dad told him as he was growing up, and I think he was in his 30s when he told this story to the press. He said, my dad told me he never felt as strong as he was in his entire life until he hit age 55. So Jágr wanted to play until 55 years old at least.
Wow. Well, what a legend. Before I let you go, Team USA has named their first 6 players for the upcoming Olympics in Milan. And it's the Tkachuk brothers. It's Austin Matthews, Jack Eichel, Quinn Hughes, Charlie McAvoy. Any surprises or exceptions that we should be taking here?
No, and especially through the lens of the Mammoth, no. I think there will be players named from the Mammoth to that Team USA, but the first 6, those are meant to be the guys to generate the buzz and get people talking. So I'm not too surprised. McAvoy being on there, his name has been a little more out of the spotlight lately, but he's still a really, really good player with a lot of name recognition. So I think that's why, don't take it as a slight that Clayton Keller or Logan Cooley aren't there yet. I think they will be. But this is who you're going to put on the poster, that you want everybody in the U.S. to put on their hockey-loving wall is, these 6 guys are the faces of the program right now.
You get to make the roster. Who do you put in goal for Team USA for the Olympics?
Oh, boy, that's going to be a tough one. You've got questions because you have a fragile Jake Ottinger now, who after he had, Pete DeBoer fired for shattering his confidence in Dallas. I'm kidding. He didn't get him fired, but he did. And then Connor Hellebuck, great regular season goaltender, struggles in the playoffs, but I love Hellebuck. And Vezina Trophy winner again this year. Those are your top 2 heading in, and there's always room for a surprise. You know what? I'm not surprised if it is a competition in the preliminary round between those 2. Right. And I think whoever plays better at the tournament is your starter.
Well, we got plenty of time before we have to worry about that in sincerity. And I guess between now and then, obviously, you've got more NHL hockey with the Utah Mammoth to play. You've got an NHL draft coming up. What are we looking for in these final, 10 or so days before the draft?
So right now, I mean, the phones are going to ring even more, but if the number 4 pick does get traded, it's not going to happen until right before the number 4 pick is made. It's just not going to happen ahead of the draft. So everybody who wants to know if they're going to trade it, you are going to have to wait. The other thing that you can look for right now, there's some minor deals being done, some teams that might acquire some rights at the draft, because what it does is it gives you an exclusive window to negotiate with a player. So I'll just throw out a name because I always like talking about Mitch Marner. If you threw the Maple Leafs a draft pick for the rights to Mitch Marner, it doesn't mean he's going to sign with you, but what it does is it gives you 5 days of only you can talk to Mitch Marner, and if you do sign him, teams that have the rights to a player can give them that crucial extra 8th year on a max term contract, and that is what the incentive is. So I don't think you're going to see a whole lot. I think there's going to be a lot of speculation over who they're going to pick, and there's going to be a lot of talk about what's going to happen in free agency, but I don't think it heats up until the actual day of the draft. But then for the next week and a half, it's going to be bananas.
Tom, always appreciate your time and your perspective. Enjoy Game 6 tonight.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on, Sean.
Host of our Locked On Utah Mammoth podcast, Tom Callahan. Guy knows everything about hockey, and we're lucky to get to speak with him pretty much every week here on the Sean O'Connell Show. All right. One of the coolest things that you can see in professional sports is when a player gives another player a compliment, not when they're in the same room, right? When a guy talks about how great another guy is because he's asked a certain question or maybe he's doing an interview, it is like the ultimate endorsement of your talent. And recently retired all-time great offensive tackle, Teron Armstead, he went on SiriusXM, he went on NFL radio, and he gave some compliments out to the best pass rushers in the game right now. Now, one of these guys is going to turn this discussion into actual dollars. I'll play the sound for you next, and we'll talk about it. Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 792.1 FM. Glad to have you with us on Utah's #1 sports talk. Reminder to all of you out there looking for some fun this summertime, ESPN 792.1 FM are excited to announce the first ever Monster Jam World Finals coming to Utah July 4th and 5th. We will be giving away tickets next week right here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Tickets are also available at Ticketmaster.com. So SiriusXM has an NFL channel, and I know people who work for this. You know, you hear a lot of Ryan Leaf. Jeff Schwartz does that occasionally. They had a great discussion with the recently retired Teron Armstead, one of the great offensive tackles in the game. And you always want to know when you're talking about a great like that, a guy who's going to be in the Hall of Fame like that, who made his job difficult? Like, who does he actually respect in a game where he's a titan of the industry, so to speak? They asked him that question, and this is going to translate to a payday, or at least it should, for one of the guys he talked about. Go ahead, James.
All right, Teron, you talked about, okay, I ain't putting the helmet back on. Okay, give me the top 3 guys' reasons why. Okay, that you've gone up
All
against.
right. This is a good question.
You ain't putting the helmet back on.
No lie. Okay. I'm going to say number 1, he was a rookie from the Rams. That young boy, Jerry Verse?
Yep.
I'm cool. I'm good. I never got to see that man again. I'm all right I'm okay with that. Never seeing that young man again in my life. Bull Rush different. Dog is different. You know that it's coming. You brace yourself. He's different. Jerry Verse is different. He will be a defensive player of the year one of these days. Mark my words.
Wow.
Him. I've had enough battles with Myles Garrett, so he's on the list too. I'm cool on that. We've danced enough. I'm good. And lastly, it's between Trey Hendrickson and Max Crosby. So I have to split 3 from both of those 2 crazy young men. I'm all right. I'm all right. Never seeing those guys again either. Yeah.
Hendrickson's agent's listening to this right now. Bill. Hendrickson's agent's taking this into the negotiations right now.
Listen, Cincinnati. I don't want to get into. I'm not going to talk bad about Cincinnati, but that's a no-brainer. Trey, it's a no-brainer. You need him on the team. He's one of the best, if not the best, pass rusher in the game. He's consistent. He's relentless. You have to have him. The defense is completely different without
him. They were joking. They're being facetious. All the agents listening to this right now, just play that clip for the GM of the Cincinnati Bengals. Play that clip for the owner. That's another great player from the National Football League who's saying, our guy, the guy that we represent, the guy that you're not extending and you're not giving max value to, he's one of the reasons why this guy is content with retirement, because he doesn't want to have to face that continuously for, more years of a career. That is as strong an endorsement as you can get. When someone who is not invested, they're not your friend, they're not your teammate, they don't want you to be successful, and they say, gosh, I can't help but respect what they do. They're good at what they do. That's the highest compliment you can be paid in professional life. When someone wants you not to be good and you just are, and they have to acknowledge that, it doesn't get better than that.
I think the other thing that Cincinnati's front office needs to look at is their defensive stats. We can't afford to let our best defensive player walk when we were basically the worst defense of the NFL last year. And I know that some people might turn that around and say, okay, well, you're maybe the worst defense in the NFL with this guy as your best defender. But it's like, but this guy was all league as a pass rusher.
Right.
So
now, if you can unload him and trade him for some more assets to bring back 2 or 3 players.
Get a couple of good defensive players, yeah.
That makes sense. But that's not what your plan is right now. That's not what his plan is right now. He wants to be in Cincinnati, right? He just wants to be fairly compensated. And look, it's funny because this happens every now and again where someone's production speaks volumes, but it's not like they don't have the look. They're not like the sexy name. No one, if you ask people around the league that don't play the game, you ask NFL fans for their top 5 pass rushers, his name's probably not coming up, partially because he's a member of a really bad defense. But you're going to name all those other guys. You're going to name the rising stars, the Jared Verse. You're going to name, obviously, Myles Garrett. You're going to talk about Max Crosby. You're probably going to talk about like a Nick Bosa or somebody like that. And maybe eventually you get to Hendrickson. So that is a reason, it seems, for Cincinnati to use that kind of as currency against him and his agent. But when you've got a future Hall of Famer going on a decently large platform and saying, like, that guy is as good as anyone else in the league, and then he extends that point by saying the defense is totally different without him. Your defense is already bad. You take the best part of it out, that's going to be a disaster. And then what kind of message does that send to the rest of your team? What kind of message does that send to Joe Burrow, who is a star? Joe Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You've done the thing that everybody in the NFL hopes they can do. You have found through the draft the guy at quarterback. You cannot improve on Joe Burrow right now, not in any kind of realistic way if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. You can't hope to draft someone better than him in the next couple of years. You can't trade up. You can't turn him over for something. If you like Josh Allen better, sorry, can't have him. If you like Patrick Mahomes better, sorry, can't have him. You have one of the 4 or 5 guys that anybody in the NFL would love to have as their starting quarterback. And what do you have to do? Once you've done that, you've checked that box that every team in the league hopes they can check. Once you've checked that box, then what do? You fill in the holes around him. And yeah, sometimes it gets expensive. You spent a lot of money on weapons for him. You did spend some money on protection for him, and those are the right things to do. But then you got to give. So it's like if you have got the best bullpen in the world, but nobody can hit the ball, kind of doesn't matter. Or vice versa. You got an incredible offense, no pitching. You're the Angels for a lot of years, right? So if you're Cincinnati and you're telling Joe Burrow, he just wants too much money, we're going to let our best defensive player go. So you better score 50 points a game. That's like, oh, well, am I not? We're already doing a lot over here. I'm already pretty darn good. Yeah, but we're not going to support you in this way. That's a tough call.
Yeah. Listen, here's the recipe for the Cincinnati Bengals. Look at the Peyton Manning era Indianapolis Colts. Look at the Denver Broncos era, or Peyton Manning era Denver Broncos at the end of his career. When their defense, when those defenses were at their best, particularly the Colts, they had 2 pass rushers who could get to the quarterback every time, Freeney and Mathis. And then they knew if we get the ball first, we're going to be on top. So then we just let our pass rushers tee off, and you win by a couple of touchdowns. You don't have to be great at every level on defense when you have an offense like the Cincinnati Bengals. So to me that tells you it's imperative that you have a great pass rush, which means that you got to bring Trey Hendrickson back. You got to figure out a number that works for both of you.
And maybe you think that you can draft better than everyone else does. Maybe you think that you can find another Trey Hendrickson, but they don't grow on trees. And I guess part of that discussion, maybe Cincinnati's like, yeah, see, Armstead's talking about Jared Verse. Jared Verse is a guy that didn't come in with a whole lot of fanfare, right? Wasn't a highly recruited prospect, was a transfer portal product, ended up being a guy that, we could get another one of those guys. We could find one of those guys. All right, good luck. When you have it, the bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush, all right? And I know that there's complicated salary cap issues when you're talking about paying somebody like Joe Burrow the money he makes, and you're paying his receivers what they make, and then you got to pay a pass rusher top dollar. But you can do the same thing that the San Francisco 49ers have done, and you can say, all right, this is our window, and we're going to win right now. When you have Joe Burrow, That's your window, Cincinnati. A young Joe Burrow is the window to try to compete for Super Bowls. He got you there before. Give him some help and see if you can get back. You're not guaranteed that he's going to be happy there for the next 10 years. Do it right now where he's got the weapons he's got. He's young. And if your window closes and you have to end up dumping these salaries and taking cap hits because it doesn't work out, you at least took a swing while your window was open.
Yeah, you at least went for it. And yeah, the path is there to have an all-league offense and a serviceable defense. That's really all the Bengals need. This keeping Trey Hendrickson is going to help you have that serviceable defense. Also, going back to what Armstead said in the clip, how about how the first guy he talks about is the rookie, Jared Verse? Like, that's watching him on TV, you could see what he was talking about. That guy's bull rush is different.
Well, and to be called different when Terran Armstead has played against, like, some unbelievable guys.
Yeah.
You're 24 years old, and you hear an old head from your profession say, like, that guy is a nightmare.
I'd rather not face you again, sir.
He's like, I'm cool not ever seeing that young man again. That's as high a compliment as you could be paid as a competitor. It's why I loved the Morris Trophy in the Pac-12 Conference, because it was voted on by your opponents. An offensive lineman every year and a defensive lineman every year were given the honor of, hey, I don't like playing against you. I wish that you weren't as good as you are, but this is how good you are, so we're going to give you an award for it. That should be like, that would be a more convincing way to distribute every award in pro sports to me.
Absolutely. Like Kobe had conversations with the media like this where he was asked who was the guy you hated to go against, who's the guy that bothered you the most as a defender.
Raja Bell.
And he said Tony Allen.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, Raja was one of those that had some battles with Kobe, but he also indulged these kind of conversations and said, Tony Allen, like that sort of thing, you should have Luka Doncic, you should have you should have LeBron, you should have Jokic. Hey, who gave you the most trouble as a defender? And then those are your finalists for Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know. Or all defense teams.
Yeah, I mean, it matters. Let's just take a look at Cincinnati's ranking.
Jokic, as I say that, Jokic might just be like, yeah, I don't care. Nobody's actually that good.
You talk about how people don't coaches don't even like voting on those things, and so you're getting like the SID is the one who actually fills out the ballot.
Yeah.
Jokic he wouldn't even touch the paper. He physically would not touch the paper. He would not open the email. Like, nah, I don't think so.
When is ballot due? I don't care.
All right. Take a quick one here. We'll come back and close it out with some crosstalk with Spence Checketts. Reminder, though, that Live Night Events has our 2025 Granary Live Concert Series coming, powered by Nightingale College and Murdoch Hyundai. That's Utah's #1 Hyundai dealer. Outdoor concerts right in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City's Granary District. That part of the city is blowing up. Go check out a concert, see all the growth. Details on ESPN700sports.com. Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. A potential deciding game in the Stanley Cup Finals tonight. You can listen to it right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. NBA Finals last night. Man, Indiana looked out of sorts with an injured Tyrese Halliburton. A calf strain is the official word on that. If he's giving you 4 points, you're not going to beat this OKC team. But we'll let them figure it out. And we played a fun game today that I always want your feedback at Real OC Sports, 877-353-0700. We did start, bench, cut. I went Mountain West Conference, pre-power conference era of Utah football, offensive tackles. Jordan Gross, Zane Beadles, Anthony Brown. And that one was too easy. People had the same answers. There was not any variation at all. It was start Gross, bench Beadles, cut Brown. And that's probably the right answer. Porter Larson's holding it down for the drive with Spence Checketts today. That one was too easy, right, Porter?
That's the right order there. It's no indictment to any of the three. Jordan Gross was ridiculous.
Yeah, he's just a freak.
All-pro type player for a while with Carolina. Yeah, I don't know that you can really go any different.
I think you have to, and that's fine. Okay,
three really good players.
So that's on me. That's on me for not making it more difficult.
You still have to put the poll out there.
And then
is this a democracy or not?
Yeah, we let the voice of the people be heard. But because that wasn't compelling enough, I was like, all right, well, I got to uncork another one here. So we're going to go power era return specialists. All right. So Pac-12 or Big 12 era return specialists, start, bench, cut, Reggie Dunn, Britton Covey, Kalen Clay.
Yeah, I'm not playing this game.
Yes, you are. Everyone has to play this game. And it got wild and zany on Twitter and on the text line because, Kalen Clay, first of all, the official stance of the Sean O'Connell show is we forgive the mistake against Oregon 11 years removed, okay?
For sure.
Guys, it was more than a decade ago. Utah has been to the mountaintop. They've been to several Pac-12 championships. They won Pac-12 championships. It's okay. We're forgiving Kalen Clay. But his single season All-American performance matched almost the career touchdown production of both Reggie Dunn and Britton Covey.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just dismiss him as the cut offhand. You can't. And Reggie didn't return punts, so he doesn't have the versatility of those two other guys, but he did score 5 touchdowns. Porter, what are you doing? Start one, bench one, cut one.
Man. Now, you make a compelling point. You do forgive Kalen.
Yes.
Forgiveness is
There's a camera on you and saw that little schneid gesture.
Forgiveness is listen, that was a 14-point swing.
It was exactly a 14-point swing.
That doesn't happen in football much. The
wild thing about it is it has happened since. Right. That should be one of those things that you learn from somebody else's
and never
mistake,
see again.
And you just never see it again. We've seen it like 10 times since then.
And you leave room for forgiveness, but you can still maybe use it as context for when you're start benching cutting. 3 of the greatest to ever do it.
Okay, but we're talking about their return specialties, okay?
Uh-huh.
And that was not on a return. That was on a pass from Travis Wilson, okay?
I forgot about that.
So that was not a return situation. So start one, bench one, cut one.
I think I'm going to start Britton. Bench Reggie and cut Kalen.
Okay, all right. But not because not because of the fumble.
Not entirely because of the fumble.
But not because of the fumble.
But there is if you're going down and you're making an index, it's on the footnotes of why he didn't make the cut. Great player. Phenomenal return man. But man, you got to carry that ball across. I don't like that you made me pick between those 3.
Some people just flat out refused. Wouldn't do it.
Yeah, that's fair.
And
Steve
that's
Smith up there.
Well, these are the Pac-12.
Savoy?
This is the power era.
Utah needs another one of these guys.
Absolutely. You know what's actually been a little bit irritating in these last couple years is that Utah built this special teams dominance.
Mm-hmm.
And, Urban Meyer over-indexed on special teams, and then Kyle Whittingham and his staff's several iterations of staff built on that. And you had not just great special teams, but great individual performers on special teams.
Ray Guy Award winners.
You had Groza winner, 2 Ray Guy Award winners that combined for 3 total awards. And you had All-American returners. We're talking about 3 different guys who were All-American returners. And when you don't have that, Utah doesn't have enough offensive firepower, historically has not had enough offensive firepower that you can't neglect, and neglect is probably the wrong word, but you can't not excel on special teams and be a championship level team. You got to be elite in 2 of the 3 phases at least. And when they've had an elite defense, a good offense, and a good special teams, it's not enough.
Well,
you got to be elite.
And you can argue specifically with a Whittingham coach team, with a team that wants to play with a physical identity, right? Maybe wants to, at times slow the game down. That's something that, you may have more of an emphasis on special teams. Mm-hmm. And the success of your team may rely on special teams even more, usually. Mitch Wisnowski, Tom Hackett, those guys made big plays in big moments, sometimes carrying the football. Sometimes
that's right.
He's switching the field in a big moment, right?
Yeah.
Those are moments that sometimes go a little unheralded.
Tom Hackett's greatest play as a Ute might be when he caught that incredibly high snap and then ran the fake for the first down.
Yeah.
That might have been the best football play that he ever made.
Absolutely.
And he was a 2-time best punter in the game, right? So, all right, Tony Parks is going to hold down the drive as well. You got Tony's mic on here, James, because I need to put him on the hot seat with the start bench cut as well.
I'm sorry to interrupt your punting conversation.
How are you?
Apologize. I'm doing great.
Listen, it's June and you
punting's very important.
All right, summertime radio. We're having a little bit of fun.
Okay.
On the Sean O'Connell show.
All right.
We're doing all-time Utah greats. Start one, bench one, cut one. We did punter. We did kicker. Now we're doing return specialist in the Power 5 era only.
Okay.
I guess it's now Power 4 era. Start one, bench one, cut one. Reggie Dunn, Britton Covey, Kalen Clay. All 3 All-Americans. You want stats? I can give you stats.
No. It's a tough one there too, because the stats are one thing. I always felt Kalen had more explosiveness than any of the 3. Now, whatever his stats look like, that's one thing. His explosiveness was unbelievable. If he could run a route, my gosh, he could have been a great receiver. He's just a bad route runner.
And yet we counted 6 teams in the NFL still gave him a shot.
Yeah.
6 different teams.
I know, man. I'll still go. Give me start Britton. Bench Kalen. Cut Dunn. I know that sounds bold with the numbers, but
Reggie sometimes listens too. So
Reggie Dunn, 5.
You heard that?
2
kick
against
return touchdowns.
2 against Colorado.
5 kick return touchdowns.
2. You said Power 5 era, so those against Colorado didn't count.
Hey,
that was not.
So
that was not a Power 5 team.
The way it shakes out, he had 5 kick return touchdowns.
He was very good.
Covey combined for 5 touchdowns on punt and kick return.
Yep.
And in one season, Kalen Clay had 4.
Yep.
3 punt returns, 1 kickoff return.
What's hard too is with Kalen. Okay, you look at the home runs, right? But the doubles and triples.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say
the field. No, the field flipping times Britton had one against USC where I don't know how he didn't. It was amazing. He got it to the 5.
Well, in the timing, right?
Oh my god,
the timing.
The Oregon game.
You extend your lead against Oregon going into halftime, right? You flip the field against USC, like you mentioned, the Rose Bowl. The timing of it is part of this.
You just mentioned the Rose Bowl, and I got goosebumps because
he was. Britton was insane that
when
day.
that touchdown happened at the Rose Bowl, I all of my best friends were there. My college buddies, my high school buddies, they were all there, And so I left the press box and I had walked down into the stands to meet like two of my best friends from high school to just like go say hi to them. That's when Britton Covey returned that. So I'm standing there with guys I've been friends with for 20 years. Dyed-in-the-wool Utah guys. One of them played at Utah. One was raised on Utah football. And Britton Covey returns that touchdown. It just how loud the place got because it was a very partisan Utah crowd. It was absolutely insane. One of the coolest moments I've ever seen in a live game.
And then he almost did it again like 8 minutes later.
Yes.
The weird thing there, too, is so the way that game was going, my thing was Utah will be able to score at will in this game. I didn't think Ohio State obviously wanted to be there, emotionally deflated a lot of things. The thing that really saved Ohio State, and clearly I would not be rooting for the Buckeyes that day, is that they got to just turn it into a backyard game where Jackson Smith and Jigba is being guarded by a running back. It's like, well, yeah, it's going to be tough to slow anybody down at that point. And my thing was Ohio State just has to outscore them. That TD was big in that moment because then you thought, okay, yeah, you needed that. You responded to it. And then where it got weird was Ohio State takes the lead, and when they punted to him on the last play, I thought, oh, you're asking for it. Oh, you are so asking. I was like, this would be the perfect way to end. I thought there's no way they're punting to him. And when they did, middle of the field, I was like, oh, please.
Well,
please. And obviously he wasn't able to make it.
He didn't gain much yardage, but he turned it into like a 20-second ordeal where everyone's like,
you weren't sure until he's down.
Yeah. Special.
That
fun
was
stuff.
You're right. The timing of his stuff just felt even
and
better.
guess what?
There's no doubt.
Several people cut him. How dare you?
Like, hey, there you go. It's a good list.
Start one,
It's a
bench one,
great
cut one.
list. Because Dunn, you'd look. I mean, I'm not saying the guy wasn't good, but it was like the two against Colorado were tough. That team was atrocious, man, atrocious. And I liked Reggie Dunn a lot. I
Most
look at
people
the others.
do not have the mental context that Tony Parks does when it comes to you just say he scored 5.
Yeah.
He scored 5.
But that day
there
they
was
win
one.
like
He could have moonwalked one of them. Like,
oh my gosh, there was
it
one
pretty
there.
bad.
I think they won 42-35. Kind of ended out the conference season the right way. It was a 5-7 year, but I remember being like, right on, bro. Way to end this the right way. And that team is just terrible. Kalen was the most explosive. I always wondered if he could put it together with the route running, but just I know the dropping the ball at the 1 yard line. We got that. But I'm talking about the rest of the stuff with Kalen's game because his explosive speed. I mean, when he hit that second gear, I remember being in Ann Arbor and I was like, uh-oh. Like
my question with Kalen Clay, because like, look, Britton Covey had a better career, undoubtedly.
Yes.
Reggie Dunn, you could say had a better career, undoubtedly, because for Kalen it was that one season, right?
Man,
it was 2014, and there are some guys, when you extrapolate what they did in that one season out over several years, they're Britton Covey. There are other guys, we get that one season from them in pro sports, in college sports, where they're special for that 1 year.
Man.
You get the Tavion Thomas year, and it's just like that was special, unique, incredible, and then it all blows up. Maybe that's all. Maybe that's what Kalen
right.
was.
Well, I felt that way as a receiver with Darren Carrington. I really felt like this is what this offense has needed. I had him as a second-team preseason All-American. Like, there was so much to like about the explosive talent and ability. You always wished it could shine at a bigger level. Tavion Thomas, great pull on that, too.
I mean, it's the reason Kalen got a chance with 6
Yeah.
teams in the NFL is because you could see that. I mean, you could see he has a gear where he runs that it's just a little quicker than like anyone else on the field.
You were
it's
level with
pretty
him, right?
remarkable.
I mean, he's a blur down there. He had to be.
Yeah. I mean, he has track speed, and then there's a different kind of gear that some guys can hit fully padded in football pads. It's just remarkable to see. Just couldn't quite polish it all together.
That's one of
he would have been a great NFL player, I think.
That's one of the best start bench cuts. I mean, you can't go wrong and you can't go right.
That's
like,
exactly
you
right.
Really can't.
There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer, and there's several other ones. I've got them all. I've got several of them mapped out in the notes.
You'll have some tough ones.
It's gonna get ugly.
Jonathan Crosswhite, start. No, I'm just kidding.
What's your next one?
I haven't decided because I'm trying to kind of ease into it. I'm not gonna do like power era quarterback yet.
You also have 70. We also have 74 days. You got to,
But do we though? Because you got Big 12 media days in there.
Yeah.
All right.
You're not going to do your power polls on Big 12 Media?
You got 4th of July. You've got 24th of July. I've got several PFL events over the course of the summer. I got vacation time left to take. It's summertime radio. We got to be packing these in. Right. And we got 2 eras to span because it's sometimes unfair to be like, well, compare the Pac-12 guys to the Mountain West Conference guys.
Entirely. Well, we'll be here to help you out.
Martell Burnett, start. No, I'm just throwing him out.
Martell Burnett, Koa Misi, Paul Kruger, start, bench, cut, go. That is one we got to get to at some
Start Kruger,
point.
Misi, bench, Burnett, cut.
Stay tuned for the drive. It's Porter and Tony holding it down for Spence today. Thanks to everybody for listening. We'll do it again tomorrow on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.